And then salt for me?
That's what I did last year. I put them in the hydrator, and I ground it with baking pepper.
I
And
walked
I
out,
use like a pinch, I make the chili and stuff.
I had the 13 racks. I walked out in the garage and it was like, my pepper started.
I started inside. And then I I realized that was enough real quick.
Oh, I didn't have any chips, so we got the recipe, we were gonna make one, and I was reading one, she was reading one. Didn't have any chili peppers or anything, all I had was jalapenos and some banana, and nothing was hot, and this one called for bell peppers, so I just went out there and I looked, and I had one reaper. And then I had this black thing, I don't know what it was from the Ministry Gardener's Garden up there by Helping Hands. And they're not ripe till they turn black, and then things are hot, and I had one, so that's what's in there's a reaper and it's
Oh, what?
Swim later.
It's in Reaper.
reaper.
Yeah, Carolina Reaper, it's a pepper.
Oh,
You said Reaper, where you at?
I'm
I'm being.
to figure out what he's saying and he's talking about a garden. So I don't know what he's growing.
We go garden over there.
Got a big garden of Reaper over there.
You know, I applied for the first dispensary right here.
I'll tell you what, years ago, we tried to convince my mom that that would be the business for her. She can grow anything from a seed. She can hybrid.
There's the states where that's legal, there are big money and big corporations going after.
Put an old lady in jail.
A lot of cash.
The FBI, the FBI.
Cash.
Oh, look, this didn't look that long.
Yeah, that's what she thought. Too.
I think I ended up with two. Give me like 3 of these in one packet.
What are they?
Or-
Yeah, there's 3 similar ones, but one step back, one step. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see.
Okay, when I talk about the first one, I'm gonna want this.
I can figure out why I got 3 things.
You got me nervous for a second. I was-
Do we let him in?
No, it was the first time out there. Yeah.
It's cipher lock.
I made
It's really cool.
smoke dip the other night on my pellet grill. You take 2 things of cream cheese. Let them sit in there for 9.5 hours.
VPN.
Then you take double. So I did.
I tried
So
cold smoking on a Traeger once. And cold smoked some cheese.
Yeah.
I couldn't get low enough, and I came back and it was
that cream cheese.
tough, man.
Was all it did was turn brown. It didn't. And so. Then you take,
That's the only way I can get.
so I doubled it. I took 6 ears of corn and you.
When I connect to here.
That's a thing where you can get out.
The VPN, I still can't get.
Goes to them.
You got one of the slide thing.
If mine comes out, I gotta take mine out. So I took it out.
I guess you can,
Corn,
I don't know. if you
Black.
fixed it all.
garlic, sea salt.
No.
Spoon of that in there. And just kind of pulse the blender.
Good, yeah.
Pulse the blender. So you get a smoked corn. And then you buy this kind of chipotle oil. And you drizzle it over the top. It's got.
Oh,
There's a little over the top. Oh my gosh.
man, I mean, that sounds good.
It was phenomenal.
Check my phone. No, I didn't get a call.
Give me a bite. Till next time.
Coming along.
Come along.
It's got a little bit more there now. I'm waiting on bricks. I finished up HVAC last week, so I got to get my electric and HVAC inspected this week.
Okay, and this.
Wait, what did
what's
she
this
write?
here?
That was his,
Long, man.
Okay,
if you want,
I,
maybe.
Probably 60 more days.
60 to 90, because I'm doing this training.
here I can,
So I ain't but one person working 2 hours a night and one day a
Oh,
weekend. It'll take me a month to do the training.
life ain't helping you.
That's what I just.
She's babysitting so I can
make sure you put
try to
the,
keep him out of the way.
is
I'm not
Jerry,
doing all this, but about 90%.
Should be.
All the-
here.
I'll do all the crown and base and the window trim. And
I wonder if Joey will be here.
I'll do a lot of that. I don't know.
I mean, they had the baby last week. He's probably
Yeah.
wanting to come to the meeting.
I know
I
that.
caught him the other day and he was dead tired. He's like,
Yeah, yeah.
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 There's Jerry. That's Joey.
And y'all, I did do some changes to the variance report. Yesterday and today, so yesterday and this morning.
And the one for here, the one tonight.
The variances, all the variance reports. I don't know when you reviewed, if you looked at them prior to that day and this morning. But I did.
Won't tell you I'm about to freeze to death.
The one with
It's
the
cold out there, isn't it?
changes on here, you mean?
So
I
much.
added that, and I did some different.
Miserable.
It's because they weren't correct. I
Okay,
did
let's just-
lots because the numbers were.
Then tomorrow, maybe tomorrow.
Okay.
Supposed to be, very bad.
Okay.
It's terrible.
And then tried to give some better explanation, on some of that stuff.
Are you gonna cover this since Diane's?
I'm gonna do them all. You have to listen to me all.
Old school.
Yeah, you missed me, haven't you, Devin?
Oh, you gotta do 3 variances.
Mhm.
Do them all separate?
We are going to do them separate and then the depth and the area on some of them overlap.
So do we have to do, we don't have to do 3 separate public hearings, though, do we?
I would say you could open it up as one and then we can review each of the variances that they're requesting.
All right.
And, but they will all need some.
Okay. But we only have to go through the questions. Do we have to go through the questions all 3 times then?
Yeah, they are all a little bit different.
Be a little longer than I thought. Dang, royalties here. You made it in. $13 dog or what?
maybe.
It's your $13 dog or what?
No, it's like $5.
Oh. That's not too bad then.
We don't schnitzel.
Man, I
You
ain't,
get combo meal.
I ain't going, man, I'm not getting in a drive-through line for 30 minutes for a hot dog. I'm gonna go down to Sam's Club for 55 cents.
I was thinking, I would.
Give me the Sam's Club.
I'll tell you, today was the first time I ate there.
I go to lunch Sam's Club all the time.
I had 2 little cheese dog fries.
just third in line, third in first out.
Really?
It's McDonald's.
But you can be third in line at Wendy's here and it'll take you 4.5 hours.
True story.
McDonald's about
It's
6.
terrible.
McDonald's about
I
6.
said, I sat in line at Wendy's one day, got mad, left the car there, went inside and said, hey, can I just order here, pick it up when I drive around? Because this line isn't moving.
Kind of felt that way with some chicken.
Nah.
Yeah, there's two cars in front of me. I got in 4 to 4. I don't know where it's at. The next time, I hadn't been to Andy's custard either. I hadn't tried that.
Oh, that place will be worse than Wiener Schnitzel.
Oh, man, wait till the
They'll be
Dairy
backed
Queen,
up.
when the
They'll be
Dairy
backed
Queen
up.
finally gets here and Andy's gonna be packed up.
Too bad.
Had a meeting in Atlanta last. From my hotel.
Is that the Omni? Yeah, is that the Omni Hotel?
I
Mhm.
tell you one place.
We stayed there.
They were bragging how.
Anniversary, my wife and I went and got one of the, look out over the
Two
game,
cops there, security, and they did
expensive.
nothing.
Yeah.
and you couldn't see the game.
$2.99.
Nine.
Sunday night, $2.99 Monday.
We went to, it was a good game, I get the Phillies and stuff, so it was
haven't seen
hyped
a
up for the,
Yeah.
for the rival games.
Yeah.
But we had the balcony and everything, and it was nice, we sat there, had a great time. We were so far, like, we were sitting so high up, you really could see the details. So I was like, for that much money, I want to sit behind home plate. I
So,
wanna sit behind home
so I got there 30 minutes after the game started, and so at the front desk, they had tickets.
Oh, yeah,
They
right there,
Comped me some tickets.
the first couple rows is where the season tickets are.
Yeah, you got a little bands, pretty nice. Had a little Razorback playing there, they were playing the White Sox, so Benintendi was playing.
Yep.
Try to get tickets for that, it's on top of the zone, the Razorback Stadium, I didn't even.
Oh.
I guess it.
I haven't seen. it.
It's on top.
Yeah, I saw, I didn't see it.
Done,
Yeah.
They did
It's done yet.
layout that.
I read an article today where Big Ten and SEC are fighting over Clemson. Hmm,
Let them have it.
You don't want it, you don't want it. They wouldn't, I wouldn't want to leave if I were them.
Why do we want them?
Why would I leave?
Why don't we?
I'm in my conference. Why would I leave that to go be middle of the pack somewhere else? The TV money's not that much more, because I'm in the championship game every year for my conference. I'm getting all endorsements. For my conference. I could see like an issue or somebody coming back, even or something like that, but. I don't see why. I could see Florida State and South Carolina.
So did you only update the?
Well, it goes back to the ACC, Florida State goes back to the ACC. I could see that happening. But the Big Ten was 14 teams. 16, they already got 14. They want more, I think, 16 teams.
So I'm going to my first chiropractor that I've had since I was like. Kind of little ancient. I don't know. It's a new guy. Listen, I was talking to my wife, I got a shoulder injury,
I go to
and I was like,
Sands.
I need to find a chiropractor. So what does that make it out? And so, where's your sleep? I'm on 10, 15 minutes late.
Bam.
Add after about chiropractor. And there's one right down from my work, and he's offering a $19.99 special, come in, alignment, x-rays, all that stuff. And so,
This is more.
it's natural chiropractic.
Yeah, I go to,
John Sands.
I go to his other, I go to
So
Solar.
his partner. Yeah, I go.
I think about this, they're,
Sands chiropractor over for
Doing Crawford.
Yay.
the nice thing about the Sands office is if you don't need to come,
No,
it's nice.
I just call them and like, the next day, like, I don't know, something like,
See, I
like a day or two.
made a couple of smoke balloons for Patty.
Oh, yeah,
I do
Patty.
whatever, I get whatever I want.
Now, usually when I call, if she doesn't have something that day, she'll say,
Well, that's what they told me, be ready for a sales package.
come right at 5 o'clock. And
It's like taking your car and try to get it.
I'm looking, it says new.
But online, he was rated 4.9 online.
No,
200 people.
it's on my desktop somewhere.
But yeah, I am a little anxious about that.
And I need to drag it right.
Office stuff. I just remember I got twisted. That's what I remember. Like I said, it's been 20 years since I went to a chiropractor and I was like twisted.
Sands, that he goes to, he's about 280 pounds, so you're gonna get twisted.
Oh, boy, big boy,
So
big boy. And when he lays it on you, boy, he lays it on.
Exactly. He cracked one of my wife's ribs one time.
allowing us the street.
It happens, I mean, it's part of.
It's, there's no 100% safe way. You're messing with something.
After the 15 ad, seeing its price, but I saw some reviews. And one of them specifically said about shoulder.
Right
He
away.
said that he gave him exercises for his shoulder. 'Cause I think I got like a pulled ligament or
Does this make it?
like tear. But So I called the nurse
Oh,
practitioner. I
yeah,
got-
so this would give us.
What's that?
And I called back, and said,
The
"Well, so-
distance
Bob
is about,
said,
I believe, 70 feet.
you gotta-
Okay.
I said, you gotta have slight tears. She said,
And
we can get you an MRI, cost you whatever it's gonna cost you. And then what you want to tell you, put it in the sling, put ice on it and take out your propane.
see if it's a
So
building.
it's up to you, but you do what you wanna do. So like, oh,
It works as a building. Right? I believe that.
Well, good luck.
I'm tired, man. I don't do well.
Like to see.
It's aggravating, is what it is. And wearing this bright, it's helped.
I mean, yeah, because, well, this will be, I believe, it could be, but I'm not entirely sure.
They don't pull my stupid trash cans out to the curb. I had one in each, those bins, and they're on the wheel and it rolled, the trash can rolled. Flipping.
The depth of that.
Ah, it was good.
About
Instead of letting go, let go.
Let it go.
Let fall.
Pick up the trash.
Try to hold on.
20,
So the area,
yeah,
make sure.
okay,
And then.
you think so? And then, okay, and then one more question, so about the short term.
Still here, I'm still here, so I tell you, we didn't want. Yeah, it's probably all right. We'll try the meeting. I'm donating to the architect, Jason Scott.
Yeah, you should feel good.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Okay, I mean.
My daughter's
They are.
recipient of it, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pretty good deal.
Oh, you mean like,
she got a four.
Like a.
She gets a little.
Yes. Oh, okay.
okay, no,
So.
That's what
I
we're
just-
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I can go for.
Okay, yeah, because we were wondering, because I know we have a transition in.
Yeah, they can do it now. Actually worked out.
And she got a 4.0, so she's getting other scholarships, so she's doing well.
Thinking.
I think it's temporary. I think that's what we did for her.
Education teacher, but she's trying to decide now if she wants to pursue special or education. And go therapy for family therapist.
Yeah, I think we.
Young kids, but she wants to do something with kids. She knows that.
For use this, okay.
Yeah.
So we still need that CUP.
My daughter-in-law teaches first graders.
Okay, that's what she's went through. She wanted to be a special ed teacher first.
Yeah.
And she just wanted to do with kids. And now she's her psychology.
Six thousand.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Therapist, school therapist.
That would make that.
My daughter-in-law's teaching at, what's it,
This.
Title IX, is that what it is, or? So she has like one more year or 2 more years, and then all her loans are for
Oh, you know, we're talking about.
5 years at a Title IX. Which before was, depending on where you were at, was somewhat discouraging. You have to go to some schools where you're gonna get $1,000 a year, but now that today, at least the minimum is 50.
Ask you.
It's a little bit different. Is it really
She, the difference between the U of A and on
the 8th Street?
Okay, yeah, because we are at three.
Like,
But yeah,
take that.
exactly. Like that one.
That's what she wanted. She wanted a small. She loved.
Barker Elementary.
Is that what it is?
What street?
A Street or 2nd Street or whatever that is?
Thomas Jefferson and Barker.
Thomas Jefferson's on Fifth Street.
Fifth?
Bella Vista. Bella Vista.
There's two right there by each other.
Sugar Creek, well, I guess they named it.
I don't know where to get the.
I can't keep up with the names.
That's Title IX in there?
This one, it says it's.
I know.
Interesting.
Says now.
It was at P Ridge, which is. definite.
Yeah.
She,
This is Timberlake.
the same.
Yeah.
It's our, it's.
No,
You have.
Tell me, she does, you know, she doesn't want.
I
What's that? She said, Guinness. Say that, like, that's where the money's at. She said, that's where the politics. Politics, I just want. Want a good one. She actually thought about that. She's got. You're
Pretty soon with me.
Yeah, the last time, you didn't see a pattern. Seen a pattern. Make meds for that.
Private sector and.
I guess that's your function working.
Yeah.
I remember when she's a kid,
Was, but
she's been ridiculous. Senior in high school. I guess. Thoughts more like this or what, they design prosthetics for senior in high school.
How you? Sleeping yet?
Prosthetics for.
He's had a few jaunts of 6 hours.
By this point, you get that sucker, so you get that sucker still through.
What's it?
He's like completely opposite of.
My kid, man, they still sleep.
Good to see you, sorry.
But now, I won't get a phone call now.
was it you?
I think the last time I would have been there.
Single parent scholarship.
No. Yeah, no, it was not me. I was gonna say the last time I was there was like for
Oh, thanks.
Brian was here.
Nice.
Somehow I swear to take it, like a small acoustic thing there, so that's.
I mean, I could just see, well, there was like. Really, just all kinds of different people there, but I went by and there was a lawyer firm over there.
I was almost on the board of that a long time ago, and I was on the board for a reason. I turned it down.
All the same here.
Okay, but let's say it was me. I was.
Then holler at you.
I was at the bar, yeah, I don't know.
I know there now.
Yeah.
No, it's not public.
I never did get.
You're not.
I saw that thing.
One of those.
Brian, how's it?
It's nice to see.
It's I wasn't expecting to hear that, but so we'll see. Yeah, I gotta figure that. Yeah. Hoping everything's all right with you.
Yeah.
Okay, it's.
You know, yeah, I might have some good daycare across the street. I'm sitting on it too long.
Yeah.
Seem like I'm very hard to find. So I'm not super few with her. I remember him coming. One off the day.
Samantha, you ready? Samantha? Samantha?
Started watching kid last.
You ready?
I'm on like.
Let's go ahead and get started this evening with the Centerton Board of Zoning Adjustments, August 1st, 2023, with a roll call. Yes.
Brandon Swoboda. Vicky Davis.
Yes.
Ben Lewis. John Sessoms.
Here.
Jerry Harris.
Yes. Here.
Craig Langford.
Here.
Devin Murphy.
Here.
Joey Engel.
Here.
And Jeff Safer.
I'm here as well. All right, under first thing this evening, under new business, we have 3 variance requests for elegance at Kenyon subdivision. The 3 variances, we will consider them individually. But the plan is to do one open public hearing in case anyone has any questions, comments that they wish to address. The 3 variances are for exterior side building setback, for the lot size, and for the lot depth. Is the applicant here to give us an overview of what you guys are requesting?
My name is Tim Lemons with Lemons Engineering, and this is Ms. Beth Hope, who represents TriStar. And I believe that the assessment that was done by staff kind of says it all. It pretty well lines up everything that what we're requesting. And we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
So Lorraine, let's go through the. You may have to do 3 public hearings on. All right, so you guys can have a seat if you want me to get up front of the questions, but.
Yeah, because you can approve one, but not the other two. Yeah.
So, all right, Lorraine, let's go ahead and go through the first one for the exterior side building setback.
Elegance at Kenyon is located on the south side of Kenyon Road, just east of 279 between Kenyon Springs Valley and Crystal Cove development that extends to Keller Road. It's proposed to be 204 lots of townhomes that zoned MTH MF12. Means that it is allowed up to 12 units per acre. The zoning also limits 5 connected single-family units. So if you scroll down just a little bit. Whoops. No, I meant just that page. The zoning code, the way it was written, and I believe it's going back from 2006 or so. It required 25 feet on each of the adjacent lots at the end of those connecting structures, thereby putting 50 feet between the buildings. The residential townhome duplex has a 20-foot, which allows, so it allows for 40 feet between the structures. Why this was exactly done this way, at the time, I think it was kind of measuring out the lot.
Is it the height maybe?
No, because this is between the buildings, like between the connected structures. So you'll have one group of 5, then you'll have 50 feet, and then another group of 5.
But they're a bit taller.
They can be single. or-
The duplex most likely would not be, correct?
No, you can have a 2-story duplex. Also, I think it had something to do with working out what the typical block was, and that's what got into that. So they are requesting that the 25 feet be reduced to 20 feet, so it would be allowing 40 feet between the structures instead of the 50 feet. Okay, now you can go. Okay, this shows where, and you can zoom in if you want, that just shows where this would make that difference. And with the, I don't know what it would come to, what the difference would be, and maybe Tim can tell us what the difference would be if there was 25 feet between the lots, how many lots that you may lose.
If you could zoom out, I can kind of, I can see the entire thing. Basically, everywhere we have a blue swash, we would lose a unit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Was it overall? I think it was around 15 lots that we would lose, because I mean, essentially we can shift it all, but.
I just counted 16, but that's close.
So, staff's opinion, the 25-foot required may be excessive and may need to be reevaluated. That the code may need to be reevaluated for the space between the buildings. We have some residential townhomes that are as close as 10 feet. So. Do you want me to go through the considerations, the findings?
No, because I have to cover them anyway.
So basically, this is a layout that with the 20 feet, it allows them to evenly space. They can get the 5 units connected and lays out well with their development, and it's still with the 204 units, it's still 6.78 units per acre, which is well under the 12 units per acre.
Okay. Let me go ahead and open it up to the public and then we'll go through the things that we need to consider. So. At this time, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Got a motion up in public hearing for variance 2301. Greg, I'll second.
Motion is second. Is anyone opposed? So the floor is now open now for anyone that has any questions, comments in regards to the first requested variance, which is the exterior side building setback reduction from 25 feet to 20 feet. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak, have any questions or comments in regards to that? If so, we'd ask that you come to the podium, state your name and your address. Second call for anyone that wishes to speak.
Joey, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
John, a second.
Motion and second, is anyone opposed? Any questions or comments from any of the commissioners before we go through the things that we need to consider?
I got one question. I just want to make sure I understood Lorraine correctly. So we've allowed other townhome developments to go through with as narrow as 10-foot spacing between homes?
Most of them, because they end up doing a PUD so that they can reduce that spacing.
Just an option,
About
right?
multifamily.
Which would be an option.
That's what,
I didn't see.
What was your question?
So the question,
More multi-level, right? So we just need more space, 'cause like
well,
fire entrance.
We don't know.
yeah, we don't know. I mean, for sure, but there's other things I think that control the fire access around that, but
Did fire have any comments on this?
That's what I was asking for.
I didn't see him back.
they have reviewed the variance.
yes, they do. They approved. There was no opposition to it.
Well, let's go through the findings of fact, which we will do for all 3 of these variances. The first one is the preservation of intent, that the variance, if granted, is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district in which development is located. No variance shall have the effect of permitting a use in any district that is not a stated permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use of that particular district. And the applicant's response is the variance, if granted, would be consistent with the permitted uses allowed in the current zoning. Staff findings, the reduction of the exterior side building setback does not change the use of the property and still allows for sufficient spacing between buildings of a total of 40 feet. The development will remain a by right use, RTH MF12 zoning. Granting the variance would not adversely affect the safety or visible characteristics of the subdivision with other property of this zoning and will provide for better use of the property. Do any of the commissioners disagree with that? Exceptional circumstances, that exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual conditions or circumstances applying to the lot, parcel, structure, or intended use exists that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district, which are unique to the individual property under consideration. The applicant's response is this development was originally designed for the sewer to connect into the future lift station that the city was planning to install on Highway 279. The city needed an easement on the property adjacent to this one for the future lift station. We dedicated the easement. The city needed at no cost, with the understanding that it would provide the needed sewer connectivity for this development. It is now our understanding that the lift station on 279 is being put on hold with no hard timeline of or if when the project will be completed. In an effort to utilize the most efficient design of the unexpected lift station on the site, the lots needed to shift, therefore reducing the side setbacks from 25 to 20 feet between the buildings, as well as minimally impacting the area requirements on 10 lots and the lot of depth on 12 lots. This variance is, if approved, will also reduce the amount of potentially non-buildable areas where there is little room for site elements while maintaining the RTH MF12 density requirements. The staff findings, the applicant is also developing Crystal Cove Phase 4 to the east and Kenyon Springs Valley to the west. The sewer easement provided by the applicant is located out on the Kenyon Springs Valley property, lift station location adjacent to the detention ponds. It's the staff's opinion that it does not appear to impact the exterior side setbacks, although the redesign due to the sewer easement did impact the design of Kenyon Springs Valley. No exceptional circumstances found to exist. However, the existing RTH MF12 zoning district does require what may be considered an excessive 50-foot between connecting 5 single-family structures. RTHD requires 20 feet for a total of 40 between structures. It may be considered that the requirements in this zoning district are too excessive and need to be reevaluated. In my opinion, I don't see any exceptional circumstances in this particular case. And I will open it up for comments or any questions, or if disagree with myself. Does anybody agree that there are exceptional circumstances presented? So no exceptional circumstances.
So lift station lot 69, right? In the middle, right in front of the pond.
It's in the middle. The only thing it would impact would be those lots
Yeah, I don't see how.
along that road. And it will need to, it's right now it's shown against the street. And it will need to be moved back in off of that easement.
Third consideration, hardship, not grounds for variance, that the specific conditions and or circumstances do not result from the intended or proposed actions of the applicant. No variance may be granted solely on the basis of economic gain or loss. The applicant's response, in my opinion, the requested variance is not self-imposed by the applicant, rather imposed by the originally agreed upon sewer connectivity being put on hold. Staff findings, it may be that the excessive requirement of the 25-foot exterior side setback on each lot is excessive, and the Centerton zoning code for our THMF12 setbacks should be reevaluated. I mean, I think the rules are clear for the RTHMF12 when it was requested. Understand that not everything is put together on a piece of property. But understanding that they were 50 feet from the get-go, in my opinion, would not create a hardship because those are spelled out from the very beginning. Again, the opinion here is from staff is at 25 feet, maybe too much. You know, but I don't think that just the 25 feet is what created it, and certainly open it up for any questions, comments in regards to discussion in regards to that.
I don't see how the sewer created this issue. I could see it on a couple if you stretched it, but the ones that aren't even adjacent to it across the whole neighborhood, I don't understand how that would be a hardship.
So we're Samantha knowing that one as well. The fourth one, the preservation of property rights, that the little interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. The applicant's response, property rights of the applicant are preserved because the reduction of side setbacks, a minimal reduction to area requirements on 6 lots will result in buildable lots conforming in all other aspects to the RTHMF12 zoning district requirements. The staff findings, staff does not believe that the literal interpretation of the ordinance will deprive the applicant of any rights for developing the property. However, a 25-foot required setback does limit the developer in the ability to maximize the allowed unit yield of 12 units an acre as allowed by the zoning district of the RTHMF12. This is always the hardest one, I think, that whenever we think about it, mean, they, again, if we go back to the hardship, the 25 feet was there. Could there be some different buildable lots? I think the answer is yes. I don't think we're here tonight to determine if 25 feet is too much or too little. Again, it was provided as an opinion from the staff. And I certainly opened it up to any discussion or comments in regards to the preservation of the property rights. Does anybody disagree with me, I should say? Okay. The absence of detriment, that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to the adjacent property that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter of the public interest. The applicant's response, the requested variance will not compromise or impact the value or suitability of these lots, any other lots in the Elegance at Kenyon subdivision or any other surrounding areas of the development. And the staff findings, the requested variance of a reduction in the exterior side setback from 25 feet to 20 will not impact any of the properties for the public health, safety, welfare of the community. With the variance granted, the subdivision can be developed at 204 lots on the 30 acres, being 6.8 units an acre, which is well below the 12 units per acre maximum in the RT MF 12 zoning. And I actually agree. I mean, I don't think it changes the property. I don't, because it's some, the interior between buildings, I don't think it would create an impact to the surrounding properties. Anybody disagree with that or have any comments or discussion? Any other questions or comments, discussion from any of the commissioners before we take a vote? My question, yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Some additional information that I don't believe was included in the narrative. You'll notice there's a very large area called Track A that exists there on the western side of the property. That is an extremely large area that we're setting aside for stormwater detention. As you know, there is a project that is just to the east of this or to the right, that is Crystal Cove Phase 4. To try to consolidate everything into a one detention area, that's what we were proposing. So we have a much larger detention area than what was needed for this development, but we did that to try to consolidate to make it a more efficient development. So that also, I think, should be put on the table as a consideration for this variance. And I know we're not here to talk about whether 25 or 20 is acceptable tonight. I do wish that the city would look at this for future projects. 50 feet between structures is substantial. I don't know of any other development anywhere in any town that requires that. 40 feet is a little more commonplace. 30 is kind of the norm, but 50 is very, very excessive. And I'll just go ahead and tell you right now, the reason we're here tonight, I made a mistake. Stand up and admit it. I thought she had 20 feet there instead of 25. And so the design and everything was done based on the 20. But that doesn't change the fact that that is a considerable distance between the buildings. So we'd ask you to please consider it. Our only other option would be to come back as a PUD, and that would just cost us a couple more months and be asking for the same thing.
So with the extra 10 feet between the buildings that you're gonna get, what are you offering up or anything that we should consider as well?
Well, I mean, the fact that I believe 50 feet is excessive, even, the person that's probably more entwined in that is your fire chief, and he had no problem whatsoever with going from 25 to 20 or 50 to 40 if you want to look at two buildings. And he should be the expert. If he had a real issue with that, I think he would have brought it up, but he did not have an issue with that. So that, coupled with the fact that we have a much larger detention area to be more of a regional detention area, that affected us in our density of our lots. We're nowhere close to the 12, which is allowed. We're at 6 point something. So in the grand scope of things, this will be a very roomy development for this time because our density is half of what is allowed.
So, some question, I mean, was it, I don't remember, if it's last meeting or the meeting before, we spent a lot of time talking about the green space and all of the natural space we'd like to see in developments. How does this affect that percentage?
That was on a PUD. They're not requesting a PUD on this one. It's just straight zoning, but I think. I just have a hard time because there's no hardship really in my mind.
I was good, that wasn't my direct question, but that was my question was what were they gonna offer up? And there was nothing that was offered up. It was the fact they have a large detention pond, which should have been part of the plan to begin with, so.
Well, and also to keep in mind that the adjacent parcel to the east of this one, or west, I'm sorry, to the west, the Canyon Springs Valley, that's the one that we also dedicated the easement going through the middle of it for you guys to run the sewer extension to. And this was all supposed to kind of like, they all piggyback each other and run together. So it was.
Are you not using that sewer line that's going through the middle of the?
Yeah, they said the project's tabled for right now. They wanted to get the water tower done first, and then they would talk about revisiting it, but I mean, it could be a couple years down the road and we need sewer sooner than that. So,
Where are you gonna get sewer from now?
well, we gotta put a lift station on this one now, which is
Station.
not a part of the design to begin with.
It's that one,
A little
the detention.
69 right there.
Thank you. See how that impacts.
And then also too, since all of these subdivisions connect, Crystal Cove, this one, and then Canyon Spring Valley, Lapis Avenue, the street there on the south side couldn't be moved because they all have to run, they all have to connect just right. So we couldn't utilize the land in any other way other than that to make that road line up.
So, Tim, here's what I think Brandon was trying to say. And I understand you guys could come back to the request. I'm not sure you've done the math yet, especially with the increase in green space and landscape and some of the things. So my direct question is there an opportunity for you to either add some green space that would be a compromise, if you will, because you're gonna get some additional buildings on here. And so that's the reason that was my question. And if the answer is no, then the answer is no, that's fine. If you don't have that answer tonight, I mean, that's what I'm asking for.
I believe that we have provided more than enough adequate green space in this situation because we are nowhere near the 12 units per acre. We're at about halfway that point. So if we need to dedicate some additional green space, I mean, everything that we have shown there in the blue is going to be green space. And then if we need to do something else in track A, maybe some additional landscaping, if we need to, we could do that.
There's not like a common area for this particular property, is there? I mean, is it all buildings?
That track A is pretty much all.
Detention pond.
It's gonna be, well, about half of it is detention pond, the rest of it is gonna be.
This green space.
Again, I think if you review part of the PUD, it's. We had a long discussion, many nights about whether we use that, don't use that, what's available and stuff like that. So we've started taking some of that out from a green space perspective, understanding that it's tension.
Detention area only dedicated. green space only.
Taking some of that out, so.
I mean, what are you, what green space?
The word line here, if we're asking for green space on a variance, I don't, personally, I don't really feel comfortable with that. That's a P.
I think that would come.
But, and I also don't think it's fair to say, because we're combining the detention areas, that this one is a lower, density, because the one to the west would be a higher density because they don't have a detention pond. I think there's two sides to that coin too.
Well, actually, the property to the west, the density on it is still less than 12. I mean, everything we've got here combined or separate, they're all less than 12.
I think you're gonna be hard pressed to dedicate right of way easements and everything you need for your development to function and get 12 units per acre. Especially with this footprint size.
And in fact, the property to the west, the lots are quite a bit deeper than even these because we just have go down to several properties. So I believe when it comes to areas that somebody's going to get to mow, they're going to have plenty to mow.
And frankly, I mean, personally, I don't disagree with you that 25 feet is a lot. I just, feel like there's a hardship, like Jeff, mentioned, that was the requirement.
And 25 feet's not a hardship in itself.
That was the code when you started designing it and it hasn't changed, so. No,
Maybe that's something that needs to be looked at.
I agree with you on that, for sure. I think if you're trying to get density up, that maybe the PUD might be the way to go. I think you can accomplish a lot more than that. Maybe closer.
To comment on your hardship, the biggest issue that we've encountered,
Can you introduce yourself?
my name is Jessica Gutierrez with TriStar Contractors. On the hardship, one of the biggest issues that we have encountered is the previous administration asked us to donate the easement. And then in exchange for the easement that we donated at no charge to the city of Centerton, who would provide sewer for these 3 projects. We, of course, donated the land at no cost to the city. The previous administration left. And then the new one tabled this sewer project, which we understand that, but now we have the added cost of a lift station on these projects due to the negotiation of us donating the land and the easement for free, where now that's been taken off the table from us.
It's on this piece of property that we have to consider.
It's on,
Yeah.
it's for both of them.
It was,
correct?
It's on this piece of property.
So the easement itself that was donated.
I'm missing something.
Well, and unfortunately, the easement and the zoning regulations.
it did,
Two separate things. I understand what you're saying.
we didn't originally have to have a lift station. Now we do.
Right. But that's just to make your property work because of what you're putting there and the fact that there was no sewer available when you designed it, right?
So the lift station with the donating of the easement, the sewer was supposed to be available.
Well, can you vacate the easement if you don't need it anymore?
Well, that would be up to the
City wants the easement because even though it's currently tabled, they want to come back and do it.
It's just that, I don't think it's a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, and we, in order for us to proceed and have our ADH approval and go ahead and start, we've got to show, sewer connection.
Are there any other questions or comments from any of the commissioners before we consider the first variance? If you guys have anything else?
One last thing, you were asking about additional green space. If we could find a comparable amount of green space put into this to offset the 10 feet strip that we are asking for, would that be something that would be entertained? So that the city is getting something out of this.
Yeah, and I don't know if we did variance. Joey doesn't support that, so I'm not sure that helps. He's just one. I mean, there's all of us that are up here,
Yeah.
so.
I just think that's more of a PUD.
Yeah, I don't think it should be tied to the variance.
Yeah.
It was an idea that I had. I'm just one.
That's a great idea, by the way.
All right. So with that, in the event the requested variance is to be granted, the BZA needs to state any conditions of the approval to be confirmed by BZA before the motion. So with that being said, there were no conditions that anyone wanted to put before it. The suggested motion following deliberation on findings of fact is stated before us. So with that, I would entertain a motion for the variance 23.
Before the motion, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
So I'm having a hard time wrapping myself around about the need for the variant, or there's no condition to create the hardship, right? But it's not, in my position, I feel like maybe if they came back, this wouldn't necessarily hopefully kill this development. I mean, I think they could come back with another proposal like a PUD or whatever. Yet, I guess more, I'm like Joey,
They could, it's just time. To Tim's point, it's time.
be a reason, and the reason is not just so you can make more money on a project.
Well, they could adjust the unit, the footprint of that unit on the end and shave 5 feet. I know that's not probably what they want to do, but yeah.
You're correct, and we have to consider it as the literal.
As face value, you consider it, okay.
That's where I was getting into the difference between variance and PUD.
The PUD is probably a 3 or 4 month process in all reality by the time they go through everything. And then they, again, with everything that's involved, they may not even come out ahead. Unfortunately, I mean, we don't know all those, you know, right now. So.
I have a question for the commission. Is it something that you would entertain on amending the code for the RTH MM12 to reduce the 25-foot?
Can they run that concurrently?
Or could we table this, amend the code and come back?
We table
That's the point.
I think it arguably tabled, but I mean, who's to say what the council's gonna do? I mean, the county, you know, it.
Sure.
But it would give us time to look at that 50 feet to see if that's excessive,
And it all,
which is not 3 months, I wouldn't think.
for all intents and purposes, they could submit it with 20 feet, assuming, you know, hoping that the council agrees with what we agree to. And then if it's passed, and now their plans meet code. Right? Is that what you were thinking as far as the track?
Yes.
I mean, I do
It's,
agree with that.
it's not going to end up just being them. It's going to be anything that's RTH. If they do a development without having to do a PUD, then if we've got an issue with our code, I think we need to amend our code
Agreed.
and solve the problem for
Agreed.
all developers.
That's a 6-week process though, right? At a minimum.
We,
Here's the
it's,
meeting.
But they haven't submitted
we-
this,
we-
right?
we'd be able to do a public hearing. It'd have to be the second meeting in September,
For the code adjustment.
amending the code.
So then you're looking for.
So it would be October, or
much-
it would go to
How
council,
much time, how much notice do we have to give?
15 days.
Cool.
It'd be
Yeah.
August then.
Yeah, it's just August 1st. If we did it,
August 1st, okay.
Y'all just meet once a month.
So
correct?
maybe,
we meet twice.
So we'd have to do the first September meeting.
that next meeting, the 15th.
And it's
Is that
too late.
15 days?
You have to-
Well, it could be the first meeting in.
Or September meeting, yeah.
So it could be simple.
So then council.
What have you submitted so far? Have you submitted?
We're on our.
With Brown. And so that's something we ask, if this is something that you guys are willing to look at in the future, if there's any way you can consider a variance, because we have done the mail outs, we have done the public notice, we've done everything, and then maybe fix it in the future.
I don't know that you can do that because it's all contingent upon council approval.
Correct. So
I
this,
think it's a bad precedent to set when we have an ordinance and there's not a hardship
Agreed.
and we approve it. So,
Agreed.
well, I don't disagree that the 50 feet might be excessive. Also don't want to set a precedent for approving a variance when there's no hardship.
So, out of curiosity, you're proposing that we hold off on doing anything and wait until we go put this in front of council.
Well,
Not,
let me.
we'll let our lawyers.
I can't recommend. Okay, go ahead.
I think you've heard the plan commission indicate that they may be interested in recommending to the city council to change the code.
Right.
There's a procedure to do that, and you're dealing with several other individuals that will make that vote to amend it or not. You can't rely.
That's what I'm saying,
on-
like,
Right, so
Kind of a-
it's kind of buyer beware. If you want to table it, it very well could, the code very well could be changed, but there's absolutely no
then
guarantee.
we run the risk. of
You absolutely run the-
Timeframe.
If we deny the variance, it doesn't go to this council, right? It has to be. The council can't appeal a board of zoning adjustment, correct?
No, it has to go to court, right?
Right, I think it's up to circuit court.
So, again, we can't make any recommendations, but if we decline it tonight, then you guys are dependent on that being
If we
changed.
decline it tonight and it's the ordinance to change that goes to council and it gets approved, then.
You don't ever have to see us again.
Right.
Well,
So it wouldn't need to go anywhere for it.
Because then we'll be.
would we have to resubmit everything though and start the process all over if we went that route?
No, because we,
As opposed to tabling it?
we would essentially be getting what we want when they do the variance to the
But
ordinance.
if the. All right, if you table it and the code goes through, then they would then it would, what do you call, I call quash, what terminology?
There's no variance
You
needed.
don't need for variance because it comply.
We would void, what word am I trying to say here?
I don't know.
Like it, a ticket or something is quashed. So,
Just vacated.
Vacate. okay. So they would, we would
No need to.
void the, or vacate the request
Right,
if it was tabled.
right.
Right.
But they have to make the motion. You can't make. the
Right, no, well, I mean, I would not recommend that the plan commission table based on that. That's,
My next question would be on the side setback. If we chose to table that, could we still then vote on the lot size and the lot depth and the few lots that we need the area adjustment on?
Yes, because you will still need those. Those are independent of this.
Well, if that's the case, I would prefer that we vote on all three of them.
But they're not the
It's-
same.
I understand, but even if it gets rejected. And then the code gets changed, they'll still be fine.
The lot depth
We'd only be
and
fine on
the
the.
area are independent of this.
Saying to vote on all three. Variance.
because they're three different variants.
If we.
Okay, I thought you
If we
said how.
decline the first, no. If we I'm just saying, if we decline the first one. And then the code does get changed, then they'll still be fine.
Yeah.
They just it's
On
not
the first one.
approved by variance on the first one.
Now,
The
just,
only way we would be fine is if they denied the other two.
Second two.
Correct.
There is no code change in that.
And the council doesn't approve it.
Right.
Then you would ultimately have to do a PUD.
Right.
So so just understand it's not there's obviously a little bit longer process than turning dirt tomorrow.
Even if whether on this first issue, whether we table or put it to a vote,
It's gonna be a wash.
the other two items though have still got to be presented and are independent of that first item.
Correct.
So it really is, do you want to have in the record potential no vote, or do you want to have it down as table? It's really a non-issue.
So if they're looking at changing the ordinance anyway, even if we get a no, please correct me if I'm wrong, if the ordinance changes, we're not locked into the no, the ordinance will change, then correct? Okay,
Because you would be in compliance at that point.
well, then I feel like I would probably agree with Jeff that if we've got to vote on the other two, we might as well just vote on all three.
But do you have to vote on? You want to? I'm talking about, okay, I mean, I know we got to get a decision on the next two for
That we
sure.
want. Okay, thank you. Do you guys have any more questions for us?
We do not.
Okay, we appreciate it. Thank you.
promotion.
I'm ready for a motion.
Based upon the conclusions for each of our findings, I move to grant this request by TriStar Contractors for a 5-foot reduction in the exterior side building setback from 25 to 20 feet. For all lots in the Elegance at Kenyon Summit. I got a second.
We have a motion and a second. You'll do a roll call vote for me, please.
David Murphy. Langsberg,
No.
John Tessums. Tony Davis. Joey Engel.
No.
Brandon Kubata.
No. You're close.
Jerry Harris.
No.
Ben Lewis. And Jeff Safer.
Okay, the first variance request for the reduction from 25 feet to 20 feet does not pass tonight.
Brian, do we have to give a reason on once we disapprove? Is that?
it certainly helps the record when it comes to if we end up in litigation.
Just to summarize, so we can.
I would just say the lack of demonstration of a hardship is the biggest factor, I believe, as I heard the commissioners this evening.
I have that you have no exceptional circumstances or hardship.
So the next variance request is 2302, the lot size, reduction in the lot area from 3,000 square feet to
Sorry.
I would like to switch these because the lot size is directly impacted by the lot depth. These are,
Not necessarily, you can make a lot wider.
well, these are all connected lots of a certain type of home. So I had thought about that. But if you're doing the same type of townhouse, then if you make the lot width consistent, then it's not going to change that lot size.
So you want to do 23.3 first?
I think it would be easier to understand.
Okay, so we're going to consider variance 2303 next, which is the lot depth, the reduction of the lot depth from 100 feet to up to 95 feet for 13 lots zoned RTH MF12. You want to go ahead and give us the staff overview? I think we have everything from this team. You want to go ahead, Lorraine?
Yes. Okay, I gave background of the subdivision. We have an exhibit up here that shows the lots that have a variance being requested on them. The first lots in the upper northwest corner, lots 92 through 99. They are being requested for a 5-foot reduction from 100 to 95 feet in the lot depth. And that is due to the way that the property lays out with all the other lots meeting the 100-foot depth. And they're just 5 feet short with getting it there. So, and that is the largest of the variances that they are requesting. The other lots are in the southwest corner. And the adjacent subdivision, Canyon Springs Valley, has Lapis Drive, and we are connecting to it. The adjacent lot has they do not have minimum lot depths in an R3 MF zoning district. We did not add one in there. So therefore, that lot depth is 95.21 feet. So in order to carry that street through, that adjacent lot is going to have right off the bat, you're gonna have a minimum 95.21, and then you can see how they curve the road in order to start making conforming lots to that 100 feet. So it takes a few lots through there in order to do that.
83 not need one as well, is that listed?
83 is on the west, it's on the other subdivision. I spent a lot of time redoing and trying to get some graphics, and I wanted to try to put it on there. But I was having enough trouble with,
Yeah, I just want to go by the book if we're gonna request a variance, 83,
no.
99.97,
83.
just west of 92 up in the northwest.
Lot 92,
83.
Here.
99.97.
oh, 99.97.
This is it.
I see what he's saying. See, in lot 82 has a 99.97. Can we add that to this? I don't know, why is that one just a little bit short?
Actually, I believe that's a typo. I believe that's a typo because all those lots in there are 100.07.
Yeah.
It's like they're dropping by a 10.
Dropping by a 10.
30, it's gonna be the angle of your property line, the way it's described.
And then the other ones don't have it because you're angling the property line.
Everything else parallels the east property line.
Yeah, I believe if I can. Step up here.
You know, good.
These two lines here, this line here. This line
Don't move,
here.
don't move.
Screen thing?
I'm trying to zoom.
anyway, this line here, center line of Erica Lane and the center of this property line are parallel, so these should all be 100.17, 100.07. There may be just a little bit of angle declination there, but I believe that very well could be a typo. Very well could be. 'Cause
Like everything's parallel with the eastern.
Parallels your east property line.
Eastern property line is the property line you use to make everything parallel to. And that line has a different
You're
bearing, so that's why you're getting the,
okay, you may be right there, that 99.97, you're right, that may be accurate, because you're right, this line is a different bearing than the other line, you're right. Good point.
So we do need to.
So we need to
request 82
add
and 83.
That lot.
Okay.
Lot 82.
It's short about that far.
300.
0.03 feet.
3/8 of an inch. If you're trying to figure it out. Keep going, Lorraine. Sorry.
Okay, so go ahead and go back down to the Lapis. So that was basically where I was just showing why there was a variance needed in order to, otherwise they wouldn't be able to put lots in there until they get to that 100 foot.
My question is, the detention pond to the north of it, if it's overbuilt, can they not just shift the whole thing slightly?
it's the road that.
Road connects to the existing road in the other neighborhood. Well, the future road for the other neighborhood.
Yeah, our roads would be like this if we did
And
that.
Kenyon Springs Valley is already designed.
So I got a question on the other group of lots, 92 through 99. Can those lots just not be rotated to north, south, and we fix this problem?
I can stop here. We actually did look at that, and even if you rotate it, it's 6 one way, half a dozen another. One thing I would like to point out, the back of these lots, we still are able to meet the minimum rear setback. So the backyards will still be at or above the minimum, so.
How do you say it's not, it's the same because you have over 100 feet of depth? You have quite a bit.
If you'll look here, where we have the building superimposed, we're not coming to the rear setback. There's about a little 5 feet in there. Here, we are going pretty close to the minimum setback, so the backyard on these, even though we're shorter, still.
From north, south, you don't have to ask for the lot depth variance. on that.
We'll lose at least 2 lots if we do that, and now we're building duplexes as opposed to quadplexes.
Yeah, what's the hardship on those?
This is what was left over when we started one into the development coming this way.
So I agree with the road one, I just don't agree with this. Cause that could be fixed.
Well, to rotate it, we would be looking at duplexes as opposed to quadplexes, and that's what we're trying to do here is do 4 and 5 plexes where possible.
You get 3. You got 190 feet width. Anyways, we can keep going.
Okay. Lorraine, anything else?
That pretty much sums up the reason for the request. I will go ahead and just add that the lots that are impacted with the area variance request are the ones that are highlighted in, the ones that are circled. No, wait a minute. This is where it gets difficult. It's cool. Can you zoom in a little bit? I had to re-highlight mine. They're the ones that are yellow. So, and those will be due to the lot depth on those.
Is that,
There is a chart that we can go to the chart if you want to look at that.
is that the next variance request? Or is that,
Yes, so this gives you just a quick table layout that shows what lots are being requested and the depth, how much of a variance is being asked for. And as you can see, the ones that on the area square feet is due to the lot depth variance being removed. Just so when we get to that, you won't see that again.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, we changed this from 13 to 15 lots, though,
Correct.
right? Because the added a two,
Correct.
added two that needs a,
82 and 83.
yeah,
Lot 58,
0.03 inch.
lot 58. On the east side shows 97. West side is 101. Do you take an average? Does it? How do you determine the lot depth? Go to your little drawing. Lot 50, it's right above the 40, 50, 51.
Well, the right of way just up to the north there, as you know.
Zoom.
It's going to the-
Yeah, it says 7.23.
Yeah. So we need to add that one.
There's, so lot 58.
So they're tying into an existing road, is that correct?
Well, another division that's been already approved. It's right next.
We, on lot 58, we could actually adjust if the eastern boundary of that lot is a problem. We could actually put an angle on lot 58 and get the 100 feet on that side. So you don't have to worry about 58.
But I think it needs to be noted so that it gets adjusted accordingly, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. The only thing I'm seeing right now that could be considered a, I guess a hardship, potential hardship is alignment on the road. It was 49 through 53. I don't see any other hardships. I mean, I could probably wrap my head around, hey, the street needs a line. That makes sense. That could be a hardship. But all the other lots, I'm not hearing or seeing a hardship.
And I think as we get down to the end, we could consider that as part of the conditions for the approval, even if that's what we want to do.
I mean, if you take the exact width of that property on the north property line. The way it is, we do the 100-foot widths and everything else, or the roads, you scroll up and kind of zoom out. So you can see the top.
I don't
Doesn't
have
show
that.
the
I
whole
don't-
thing.
You won't have to go the other.
Underneath it.
Now, everything going east-west, those are all facing east-west. They are all the 100-foot. With that and your road right-of-ways, it doesn't divide out. It'd be physically impossible, to know how you want to reorganize that. Lots to have that break down to the hundreds and the 50s. And Joey was saying kind of rotating it, if you flipped it so they went north-south, you're actually decreasing the amount of depth on all these lots. If you rotated it, it's about 185 by 175 squares. If you rotate it, you'd actually be looking at losing 10 more feet or 50 on it if you rotate it, based on the dimensions on the side.
20 plus 60, yeah, it's 180, right?
I'm gonna open it up.
Gonna work.
I'm gonna open it up to the public. So I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion.
John, a second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? We are now open to the public. For anyone who wishes to speak, have any questions, comments in regards to variance 2303, the lot depth, the reduction of a lot depth from 100 feet to up to 95 feet for 15 lots. If anyone wishes to speak, have any questions or comments? Second call for anyone that wishes to speak. Third and final call. And I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
On a motion to close the public hearing for variance 2303.
Second.
Motion and second. Is anyone opposed? All right, let's go through our findings of fact. And these are elements to be used to clearly establish the basis for either granting or denying the approval of the requested variance from the Centerton zoning code per section 14.04.0. The first one is the preservation of intent, that the variance, if granted, is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district, the development located. The variance shall have the effect of permitting a use in any district that is not stated permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use of that particular district. The applicant's response, the variance, if granted, the permitted is allowed in the current zoning. Staff findings, the reduction of up to 5-foot lot depth on, it would be 15 lots, does not change the use of the property. The development will remain by right the use of the RTH MF 12 zoning. And I don't disagree with that preservation of intent. Does anybody else? Exceptional circumstances, that exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual conditions or circumstances applying to the lot, parcel, structure, or intended use exist that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district, which are unique to the individual property under consideration. The applicant's response, this development was originally designed for the sewer to connect into the future lift station that the city was planning to install on Highway 279. The city needed an easement on the property, Canyon Spring Valley, adjacent to this one for the future lift station. We dedicated the easement. The city needed at no cost with the understanding that it would provide the needed sewer connectivity for this development. It is now our understanding that the lift station on 279 is being put on hold with no hard timeline of if, when the project will be completed. In an effort to utilize the most efficient design of the unexpected lift station on the site, the lots needed to shift, therefore reducing the side setbacks from 25 to 20 feet between the buildings, as well as minimally impacting the area requirements on 10 lots and lot depths of 12 lots. This variance, if approved, will also reduce the amount of potentially non-buildable areas where there is little room for site elements while maintaining the RTH MF 12 density requirements. The staff findings, the applicant is also developing Crystal Cove Phase 4 to the east and Canyon Springs Valley to the west. The sewer easement provided by the applicant is located on the Canyon Springs Valley property, the R3 MF 12 zoning for the subdivision to the west. Canyon Valley Springs does not have a lot depth requirement. Lot 83 in Canyon Spring Valley shares a lot line of 95.21 feet with lot 53 in Elegance at Canyon with the street connection of Lapis Drive. Lots going from 53 to 49 feet gradually increase in depth along Lapis Drive to meet the 100-foot required depth for the RTH MF 12. Due to the street connection requirement and the difference in zoning requirements between the two developments, there's an unusual circumstance for these two lots. I'm sorry, for these lots. Lots 92 through 99 are impacted by the measurements of the property and all of the lots meeting the 100-foot depth requirement. I'm with Tony on the fact I do think there are a few that have exceptional circumstances. I don't think that all 15 have the exceptional circumstances. And I'd certainly open it up to discussion or any comments in regards to that.
I think you gotta pick which one on this cluster, the 90 numbered lots up here. To me, the depth makes more sense, to be short, but the width could be adjusted for. You would just have to lose one unit on each, so it'd be 3 instead of 4. It would meet. Down in the south, but again, we're just talking about depth right now.
Correct.
Right?
Something to also keep.
1 second. You always count.
No, you're good.
You good? Okay, go ahead.
So something else to also keep in mind for the circumstances is had the sewer connectivity come in, we wouldn't need a lift station on these lots. So, or on these properties. So the reason to get the doors is if we don't get the doors, these projects are gonna be dead in the water because there has to be something to compensate to build this lift station now because it didn't come in. So you're gonna have Crystal Cove and Crystal Cove 4 built, and then you're gonna have a dead space where it's gonna go pavement, dirt road, because these properties do have all the off-site street improvements as well. So that's something else to think of, but the reason that we need these variances is to now recoup. Otherwise, these properties might not progress and they're gonna be dead in the water.
I just don't think the sewer is a good hardship. On this, in this particular case, you're gonna have to provide sewer to this site regardless. There was the opportunity maybe to partner with the city to do that, that fell through. But it's still your responsibility to get public sewer there to serve these lots.
Correct, but then it comes back to the city want these properties and taxpayers and all that stuff, which we're happy to do. It's just unfortunately, we don't own the properties. We're just representing the owners, and if they can't make the numbers work out, the properties may not develop.
Understand, yeah.
In my opinion, that should have been your first answer, not as we're here discussing this evening. Because when I read the your applicant response, I don't know who provided it, but it doesn't really answer any of the questions, nor the reason that you really want it. And that's the fact that
Unfortunately, we were directed on what they felt we should put, so.
you're the applicant.
So
So
just wanted you guys to know that, and that's why we're kind of requesting these variants to help with the lift station.
thank you.
I mean, early on in your staff finding, you mentioned the, just with the property, the north, like, is it parallels the northern width any different than the southern width? So if this was completely flip flopped, is there any reason why they would have to ask for the depth on those,
Are you talking this group, this
that,
top
that
group?
top group?
Even if you flip flop them
You're still gonna be.
I think you're still short.
You're still
You're
10
still
feet,
short.
you're still 10 feet short.
80 feet, so that's 90 feet if you divide them. So that's actually would be 10 feet. So the way that they have them is the minimum variance. As far as like the lot width, like I had said before, on the ones that are adjacent to each other, it's because they're connected and they have a certain design that requires that 30 feet. So they may, if they change it, they're gonna have, you know, an odd one out here in the, or in the middle or something. They'd have 230, 35, 35 and a 30 or something. They'd have to come up with something different. Instead of their template that they're using.
If they flip it, you know, the one that was 99.97, on the bottom it'd be 92. 8 feet off on the depth. So it's a 2 foot difference because you're 10 foot off up here, 2 foot different, but no matter what, going with the 100 and the 50-foot roads, it is impossible to get them to lay out.
So if I'm understanding the commissioner's desires, if I can recap it, and please disagree, the agreement is that in the southern part of the property, you guys are in agreement that due to the road, that you guys are okay with those lots. But
Well, I think the depth, you're gonna have the same problem on the depth up there. I think the subsequent variance request could be amended. Okay, because you only have 180 if you flip them. Does that make sense?
so you would rather consider all of them versus no, I didn't follow that. So
If you flip the 90 number lots, you're only dealing with 180 feet this way. You know, north, south. So that doesn't solve the problem.
the lot depth problem.
Doesn't solve the specific depth.
It actually is.
It actually makes it worse. It makes it 2 feet worse.
So we'll consider them all then. But also just want to recap that, is there anybody that agrees, or is there anybody that thinks there are exceptional circumstances that were presented?
Just the road.
Well, the special circumstance would be part of our requirement to connect subdivisions through our.
That's true.
That's a special circumstance.
For the ones on the bottom.
Well,
Yes.
well, Creekside too, right? Creekside is lining up with the drive to the west.
Yes.
That road also connects, but then Gosh, even if you flip that, you're looking at the traffic pattern and the parking patterns and stuff being all, yeah, it's worse.
So since we need to keep good notes, the exceptional circumstance would be due to the fact that they have to connect the two roads then in this particular example.
The interconnectivity of the other neighborhoods.
Under staff findings, it looks like that needs to be lots 92 through 99 are interior lots that are impacted with the property constraints.
I'm sorry, can you summarize, because there were multiple things said at
So we're going to,
streets and.
we're going to consider all lots. We're not going to make any, we're not going to try to condition anything separate. So we're not going to do a cluster at the top and a cluster at the bottom. We're going to consider the variance request for all lots. That was highlighted, which has grown to 15. And the exceptional circumstance would be due to the connectivity, which really we want as a city, the way that they connect would have created somewhat of a hardship because of the way that the road is, if that makes sense.
Yes, on Lapis Avenue, that's the one we're talking about, but then someone just raised a concern that Creekside Drive is also gonna be an issue.
It's the one south of the 90s, the road.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
They have to connect there as well.
The road has to connect there to the neighboring communities.
Yeah, I see that, but how does that affect the lot depth?
It affects that piece of land right there that they're, can't move that road up or down.
The remainder of property between the 90s lots is somewhat fixed.
So then I have a question, but I mean, the lots 92 through 90, or, yeah,
99.
99 right there, that,
Oh, 90.
what you're doing with those lots is just to keep in congruence with everything else that you've got going on in the property, right? They could, because of the depth issues, they could build differently,
They could.
Yes.
right?
They could.
That Creekside Road would still need to be there, but the rest of it, they could design the whole thing.
It would turn into 4 instead of 8. It would turn into 4 units instead of 8.
Right, but what, I guess what I'm saying is on that particular, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, not an engineer, not, but if they were to change that interior, that does not affect. I don't understand how it
It's to maintain the 100.
affects the, I don't understand how it affects, I'm looking at the Erica. I don't understand how it affects Creekside, I guess,
They're forced to connect into Creekside to the west. So that forces their southern boundary.
Yeah, the situation we have here, we have to get Lapis here.
Yeah, I get that.
We have to get Creekside here.
It does, to me, it does not affect that except for the two streets that are on the west and the.
That's what I'm talking about. It affects Eric's
Please.
Lane and
It's in between.
It's the whole property dimensions because they are compliant with the 100-foot and the street widths throughout. Except for that 5 feet. Well, it's gonna be, would be a total of 10
Total
feet
of 10 feet.
that they're just short in.
so it'll be 10 feet.
So it's 5 on both of those lots, because if you take the 100-foot lot depth.
Yeah.
Including the one that comes off of. That's Kenyon, I think.
Yeah.
Kenyon, you take the 100 off there and the 50-foot. You're limited on space east-west, where that's where we're saying if you rotate it, it doesn't help you any. And then if you're taking it the way they're dimensioned, where they're all facing east-west. The property is just constrained by its exact depth to where it doesn't divide out. With those lot widths and those road widths, so losing the 5 feet. On those 4 lots accounts for that makeup. Sorry, 10.03 feet, because that one other line.
Just the width of the overall.
Yeah.
Property, yeah. But to your point, yes, it could be done differently.
Okay. The next one, hardship, not grounds for the variance, that the special conditions and or circumstances do not result from the intended or proposed actions of the applicant. No variance may be granted solely on the basis of economic gain or loss. The applicant's response, in my opinion, the requested variance is not self-imposed by the applicant, rather imposed by the originally agreed upon sewer connectivity being put on hold. The staff findings, lots 49 through 53 are impacted by the requirement for street connectivity between Crystal Cove Phase 4. RTH MF 12, Elegance at Kenyon, which is RTH MF 12, and Mid Springs, which is R4 multifamily. And could be considered a hardship in order to make the connection between Elegance at Kenyon and Kenyon Springs Valley, which does not have a lot depth requirement. These lots needed to be adjusted in order to match common property lines. Lots 93, 94, 97, 98 are interior, impacted by the measurement constraints due to the property dimensions, and all other lots meeting the minimum lot depth of 100. And I think we could probably have the same discussion on this that we had on the other one. I would completely agree again with this lower section. The top one I understand, but again, they could design it, to your point, Brandon, they could design it a little bit different. So I'd open it up for any comments or discussion in regards to the hardship as well. Does anybody have any different opinions than what we just discussed?
And you want to vote on the entirety of every lot, not splitting it up and saying that south's good and it's not.
Correct. For the same discussion that we just had. The street does ultimately impact the piece of land in the middle. Understand they could design it differently. Okay. Not a problem. Okay. Preservation of property rights. That literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by the properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. The applicant's response, property rights of the applicant are preserved because the reduction of side setbacks, minimal reduction to lot depth for 7 lots and area requirements on 12 lots will result in the buildable lots conforming in all other aspects to the RTH MF 12 zoning district. The staff findings, staff does not believe that the literal interpretation of the ordinance will deprive the applicant of any rights for developing the property. A 100-foot lot depth requirement does not impact the ability to develop the land as an RTH MF 12 use, but does impact the developer's ability to maximize density allowed by RTH MF 12. The current proposed density of the 204 lots is 6.8 units per acre. Again, this is always that hard one. They could change what they want to build based off of that. Yes, they could still do RTH 12. Yes, there are some maximums that they could put on there. But at the end of the day, they could technically design it a little bit different to preserve the rights. Does anybody disagree with that or have any discussion or comments? Okay. The absence of detriment that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to the adjacent property, or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter or the public interest. The applicant's response, the requested variance will not compromise or impact the value or suitability of these lots, any of the lots in the Elegance at Kenyon subdivision, or any other surrounding areas of the development. The staff findings, the requested variance of a reduction up to 5-foot reduction in lot depth of lot size for the 15 requested lots will not impact any other properties or public health, safety, welfare of the community. The 5-foot variance represents up to a 5% reduction to the lot depth. The number of requested lots affected by this request is technically at 7.35, I think, with the additional 2 lots of the total 204 lots proposed with this subdivision. I don't disagree with the staff findings on this one. They're still going to build similar units. And I don't think it impacts the overall property value. But open up for discussion or any comments in regards to that. Any other questions or comments, discussion before we consider a motion and a vote?
Again, we're voting on all of them.
We're voting on all of them, which is 15 lots.
How did we come to the, I mean, I know it was recommended, could we separate them and? Is that a way, why did we do that?
Whenever the motion is made, if someone wants to change.
I got you.
We can ask for. The applicant have to request that.
I don't think the applicant has to request it. I think we could actually do it on a correct.
Do what to change the,
If we wanted to do 7 instead of 15.
well, I think you could make a motion for that, right?
And because they own, I don't know how the public notices went out. So if we go from 13 to 15, they would have been. Does that matter?
If we're, so we're
Did-
increasing,
Was the public notice specific to
Decreasing the number of
13?
lots.
I don't,
For the whole 20 acres.
Or was it for, I don't know how it was published or how it was presented to understand we didn't have any public. But it,
still, we want to address the notice from representative, and I don't know.
you guys know how it was published?
Well, the two lots that would be added, they own the property. So it,
No, like, did the notice say 13 lots, or did the notice just say variance on the property? What was the public notice?
So this would actually be less, right? Because we're.
It would be less.
To approve less variance.
okay.
If it's
Samantha
less, I
said
think
that
we're
there
okay.
was not a number
There wasn't.
on the.
It was not a number, so it doesn't matter. What I'm saying, right? If there's not a number on the public notice, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. All right, so to answer your question, if someone wants to make a motion for all, someone can make a motion for all. If someone wants to make a motion for less, someone can make a motion for less. And at this time, I would entertain a motion. There's a suggested motion in your package. And you're welcome to use it, or you're welcome to make any adjustments that you might see necessary.
This is John, motion based upon the conclusions of each of our findings, I move to grant the request by TriStar Contractors for up to 5-foot reduction of lot depth for lots 93 through 99, 92 through 99, for the proposed Elegance Kenyon subdivision.
Are you adding in the additional 2? Which
one's it? I can't see that.
82 and 83 would be the additional.
Yes, 92 through 99 and 82 and 83. It's a third of an inch. I don't know that.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Have clarification on what that was.
So the motion was for up to a 5 feet reduction. In lot depth for the requested 13 that they submitted and the additional 2, so a total of 15 that we found this evening.
What we're talking about all.
No. I said 93. I said 92, just the bottom.
Right.
Just the north, just the bottom, and those 2 on the,
I
I
apologize.
didn't list all of them. I just listed
So
the.
you didn't hit the southwest.
I apologize.
Okay, so you.
Let's go back then. I apologize, Jerry. So John, please state your motion and I'll circle what you said.
Make that real big,
Sorry.
so we know which lots.
And bear with me, are you guys is your motion more than was?
No,
Okay, I just want to verify that was the case.
I believe it'll be less here in a second. Sorry.
I do need to make a clarification. Kayla has said that the actual notices, the published notices did not have the actual lots. But the notices that went out to the adjacent property owners did say 13 lots.
we can go less, right?
We could go less.
Over now.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man. Stand by.
Well, technically, it's more. Right?
No, because I'm not doing 92, 99. Just on 1, 2, 3.
When you combine them all. and Add them up, the motion for the total number of lot, there will be a motion for a total number of lots that was. Than what the notice said.
No, it's not. No, it's less. Be less. We added 2, it took 4 away.
Is there not gonna be a separate motion? Or any other lots?
I was just motioning for the ones that.
Is there not gonna be another, how are you gonna adjust the other lots on the side?
They weren't motion for approval.
49 to 53.
So John's motion will only be for a specific number of lots.
Yeah.
It won't include
every lot.
We're gonna have to go back and make another motion to include lots to the south.
You have to address the request
Yes, the remainder.
in its
You
entirety.
have to have two motions then, if I did it that way.
And when you total all of the lots up that are gonna be in the motion,
Yeah.
it's gonna be higher than what the notice said.
That makes sense.
I mean,
Notice that went out to the adjacent property owners is us on both sides. So the only one.
It's still, legally, we have to re-notify you.
so he could technically stay. No, because you want, well, no, in his motion, he could say positive for some and line others, which would technically be a positive motion
Correct.
in the correct form
Right.
that could be understood, correct?
I think so. And that one, I can do it in one motion and it would still be.
Okay.
Do one motion, all right, public math, all right, bear with me, you said 82 and 83. Based upon it, I redo my motion. Based upon the conclusions of each of our findings, I move to grant the request by TriStar Contractors for up to 5 foot reduction of lot depth for lots 49, 50 through 53, 82, 83, and deny 5 foot reduction in lots 92 through 99 for the proposed Elegance of Kenyon subdivision.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Does that make sense, Jerry?
Yeah.
Second.
I think.
Second.
I don't have voting.
So we have a motion and a second, and I will open it up for discussion. What would you like to discuss, Jerry?
Well, I mean. It'd be a lot simpler just to vote on all of them. We did. No,
At once?
but I mean, yeah, I'm talking about,
Well, I think what we've discussed is some we believe that there actually is a hardship with and others we don't.
well, yeah, I don't disagree with that, but it still could be rearranged.
Which if we vote,
Yeah, I don't know whether to vote yes or no, or.
so if we, based on John's motion, if we if we approve, let's say the lower and 82 and 83, and we deny the lots in the 90, then yes, technically they will have to redesign it. And that's what I think that's what your question is, right? That's the way that it will come across if we vote that way. Does that help?
Yeah. I mean,
And I would, just for the point of the record, I'd ask the applicant if they are satisfied with the lawyer is presented.
The motion is to approve lots 49 to 53, 82 and 83, and deny 92 to 99
Correct.
with that.
That would mean you would have to redesign that piece.
We have a motion. And we have a second. Kayla, if you will do a roll call.
Sorry, one.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
We mentioned earlier lot 58 needed to be adjusted. Just want to put that on the official record that 58's line would be adjusted to have the 400 feet. That's right.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be part of the motion, but
Yeah,
For
it's on
discussion
the note.
Discussion.
Yeah, that corner piece.
Make sure it was in.
Kayla, if you will do a roll call for me, please.
Devin Murphy,
Yes.
Greg Langsberg,
No.
John Sessom.
Yeah.
Tony Davis,
Yes.
Billy Engel,
Yes.
Brendan Swoboda,
Yes.
Barry Harris,
Yes.
Ed Lewis,
Yes.
and Jeff Sanford.
I'm a yes as well. Guys,
Some of those actually didn't need the depth of the lots. The one line doesn't matter. It's the average of the middle distance from the two lines. So some of them actually didn't need it. Now I've looked up the zoning code. It'll be the distance between midpoints of straight lines connecting the foremost points of the side lots. So,
82 and 83.
so yeah, where it's 3 inches off on.
Read that again?
The depth of the lot should be considered to be the distance between the midpoints of straight lines connecting the foremost points of the side lot lines. Rear midpoint. Yeah. So if you draw a line from the two front lines, take that angle. So you had pretty much average the distance of the two is your depth. It's not just each line.
We got her covered.
If they want to reduce an inch on that lot, they can.
The next variance request is variance 2302 for lot size. This is a reduction in the lot area. 3,000 square feet, minimum of 2,850 feet for 7 lots zoned RTHMF 12. Do you want to give us an overview of which lots?
Okay, we were talking about the same lots here that we mentioned before. Lots, except the ones, if you scroll down. They're they're requesting square footage variance for lots 50 through 52 along Lapis Drive. And that is because of the depth of the lot. And then 93, 94, 97, and 98, those variances were no longer needed if those,
Can't be.
if since the depth variance wasn't approved, then it's irrelevant. Correct? No.
You still have to consider them all, all right? And then just whenever there's a motion, if there's a
You're
motion.
gonna have to do the same thing you did last time, John.
Good job, John.
Okay,
Well, I like to make it easy.
okay. So lots 92. The ones on the corners, they do meet the area requirements, so it's just the 4 internal lots that are 93, 94, 97, and 98. And that would have been if the lot depth is shown at 95 feet, so that is 2,850. And the required lot depth is, lot area is 3,000 square feet. So that's a difference of 150 feet. The other lots are along Lapis Avenue. Lapis Avenue. And you might just a little bit so they can see this. Okay, so it's the 3 lots, 50, 51, 52 that are highlighted in purple. That the area square footage, it ranges from 58.56 variance to 126.48 on lot 52. And that is due to the lot depth.
Can I ask are we in the stage? Can I ask
There's
the
the
question? What's on lot 53?
Lot 53 is actually the lot number actually needs to be moved over. And then I'm not sure what that green, is that just a green space area? On lot 53,
There is, but there's also a drainage in the structure.
Okay.
there is there, okay. And I would say that's also on lot 54, but those lot numbers actually need moved
Put
over,
them in the building.
yes. It would, and then also if there's a drainage easement. Well, there's still a space between the drainage
There's
easement.
a buildable area within 53.
Yeah, it looks like it, yeah. It looks like it's shown buildable area right there.
On 53,
Yes.
Yeah, driveway.
but we can't do more than 5 units together, so. Yeah, there is a unit on 53.
Yeah, there's a unit right there where the cursor is. That's a unit.
And that could get shifted 5 feet and totally, and then you wouldn't need a width or area variance, right?
53 doesn't need an area variance.
No, I know, but you could take the excess room out of 53, adjust that and get your area back in 50, 51 and 50.
No, because the same thing with the lot width. Because they have this certain buildings that require a 30-foot lot width.
These property lines are set on the building wall, so it's not like you can add area.
So this is
There's a lot more.
self-imposed based on the building footprint.
No, this is because of tying into Lapis. We just shrunk the depth. So it's maintaining the 30-foot.
Self-imposed because of the building footprint.
Building design. You don't have to build that connected building.
Yes, if they change the building footprint, it could be built and not need a variance.
No, if you change building footprint, it doesn't change the area of lots 51, 52.
If you change the building footprint and move the lot on the east lot line on 53 to hit the new wall. And spread out the rest of the room through 50, 51, and 52.
That's what I've been
If you go further west to do that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
To have a different design.
You have to have a different design of
The rest
a
of
structure.
Subdivision.
You have to have a different structure is what you're trying to say, Joy, I think.
Yeah.
Can. Yeah.
This time I would entertain a motion to open it up to the public.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? We are now open to the public for variance 2302 lot size reduction in lot area from 3,000 square foot to a minimum of 2,850 for 7 lots. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Have any questions or comments? Second call. Third and final call for anyone that wishes to speak.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to close in a second. Is anyone opposed? All right. Let's go through our findings of fact. The first one is the preservation of intent, that the variance, if granted, is consistent with the purpose and intent of the regulations for the district in which the development is located. No variance shall have the effect of permitting a use in any district that is not a state of permitted use, accessory use, or conditional use for that particular district. The applicant's response, the variance, if granted, would be consistent with the permitted uses allowed in the current zoning. The staff findings, the reduction of lots sizes for the 7 lots does not change the use of the property. The development will remain a by right use in the RTH MF12 zoning. I agree with this one. Does anybody disagree with this one? Exceptional circumstances, that exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual conditions or circumstances applying to the lot, parcel, structure, or intended use exist that do not apply to other properties or uses in the same district, which are unique to the individual property under consideration. The applicant's response, this development was originally designed for the sewer to connect into the future lift station that the city was planning to install on Highway 279. The city needed an easement on the property, Spring Valley adjacent to this one for the lift station. We dedicated the easement, city needed at no cost with the understanding that it would provide needed sewer connectivity for this development. It is now our understanding that the lift station on 279 is being put on hold with no hard timeline or if or when the project will be completed. In an effort to utilize the most efficient design of the unexpected lift station on site, the lots needed to shift, therefore reducing the side setbacks from 25 to 20 feet between the buildings, as well as minimally impacting the area requirements on 7 lots and the depth on 13 lots. This variance, if approved, will also reduce the amount of potentially non-buildable areas where there's little room for side elements while remaining with the RTH MF12 density requirements. The staff findings, the applicant is also developing Crystal Cove Phase 4 to the east and Kenyon Springs Valley to the west. The sewer easement provided by the applicant is located in the Kenyon Springs Valley property. The lift station located is adjacent to the detention pond, but in staff opinion does not appear to impact the lot area. Although the redesign due to the sewer easement did impact the design of the Kenyon Springs Valley. Kenyon Springs Valley of R3 multifamily did not have a minimum lot depth. Therefore, the adjacent lot is a depth of 98.6 along Lapis Avenue due to the street connection requirement and the difference in zoning requirements between the two developments. Lot 53 will share a property line. An increase in depth from lots 52 to 49. Lots 93, 94, 97, 98 are interior lots impacted by measurement constraints to the property dimensions and all other lots meeting the minimum depth of 100 feet. Do you guys think that there are exceptional circumstances on all 7 lots that are requested?
No.
And then I would entertain which lots you think have exceptional circumstances that we should have a conversation on.
For lot width. Saying none.
This is for lot size.
Okay, lot size.
So you
But it's
just,
area.
yeah, I'd say you just went and reduced the one minimum width from 30 by 100 to 30 by 95 or 98. So if you made that your minimum width went from 30 by 98, but your area is still 3,000.
We never said 30. We only said 95.
30 is the requirement as it stands. So the minimum width on all lots is 30 per the code.
Correct.
And the minimum width is 100 per the code, and the minimum area is 3,000.
Minimum.
Yeah.
But you can still meet that. Still meet the 30, you can go above that. Not have the depth and meet the area if you make it wider.
Correct. But say if you change the minimum for the one, you said the minimum's now 30 by 90.
Changing the minimum,
But the area is still.
It's not minimum, we only asked for depth. So the minimum depth is now 95 for the certain amount of lots, right?
Yeah, so you use that variance, say like the minimum is 30 by 95, so which would be the straight 2850. If you said those are your two minimums. You have a minimum lot width, minimum lot depth.
It doesn't equal 3,000.
It doesn't equal those two dimensions.
It's minimum.
Yeah.
Right, so you make it wider and meet the area.
I'm just not seeing how.
Okay, so.
We had 5 feet.
You're saying I'll give you I'll give you the 95, but I'm.
Because of the street, because you're held by the street. You
Because
can't
that is the circumstance.
make it any deeper because of the street, but you can make it wider and not need a variance.
But that's the exceptional circumstance. You approved that already.
The circumstance is because of the street, the depth of the lot, nothing to do with the width of the lot.
So the minimum lot width would need to be around 31.58.
We're not building any of the structures on there, so I don't know how that would ultimately affect what the architectural design plans are for the footprint on there. I can't make that call.
Anybody have any lots that they would like to throw out that they think qualify for the exceptional circumstance?
I'm gonna say 50, 51, and 52.
Say that louder, I can hear.
50, 51, and 50, or yeah, 50, 51, and 52. I think they do because we have imposed the street connection on them. I understand the math, what you're going at, Joey, but I think
You're coming from.
we've imposed it, and so. Why need to change well, I guess one structure, over the course of the entire property because of something we imposed?
They laid it out, right? The subdivision.
And there are other lots on here that are different widths. I mean, there's 36 on here, there's 50 on here, I mean, it's different all over the board here.
Exterior.
Yeah, all your
Very
interior
exterior.
ones are 30.
So the exterior are adjustable. It's the interior lots that they have a footprint that they're building to.
I think we have an agreement to disagree. Where are we gonna double?
Yeah, I think
I would agree.
Which we can do. On the hardship, not grounds for the variance, that the exception, that the special conditions and or circumstances do not result from the intended or proposed actions of the applicant. No variance may be granted solely on the basis of the economic gain or loss. The applicant's response, in my opinion, the requested variance is not self-imposed by the applicant, rather imposed by the originally agreed upon sewer connectivity being put on hold. The staff findings, lots 49 through 53 are impacted by the requirement for street connectivity between Crystal Cove Phase 4, which is RTHMF 12, Elegance at Kenyon, which is RTHMF 12, and Kenyon Springs Valley, which is R3 multifamily. Street connectivity requirements could be considered to create a hardship to meet typical setback requirements in order to make the connection between Elegance and Kenyon Springs Valley, which does not have lot depth requirements. These lots needed to be adjusted. Lots 93, 94, 97, 98 are interior lots impacted by measurement constraints due to the property dimensions and all of the lots meeting the minimum lot depth of 100 feet. Craig, do you still agree?
Well, I think the hardship is on them. I think the exceptional circumstances is on us, so I'm.
So you're different on this
I,
one?
I might agree that circumstances, we asked, essentially, Craig, what we've asked for is to change the dimension of the lot, like giving you 95 feet instead of 100, right? We ask you to change the dimensions, but we are not saying that you can change the overall areas. You still have to add up.
It's not a depth, it's not a depth and a width.
It's just a depth.
It's just a depth.
So we said you can, yes, you can go this way, but you still have to meet the whole area of that lot. That's the way I'm interpreting both of these when you put them together.
Yeah.
So you have a circumstance, I agree with that, but a hardship,
And the applicant did state in the previous one that there's a math equation on the whole overall subdivision working from a math equation. So that was a statement that was made.
what is the circumstance to it?
Anybody disagree with that from a hardship perspective?
Can you explain what are you saying on the math equation?
So she stated that they needed this many units to make the property work, or it may not develop. That's what she said earlier. That's a math equation. I call it a math equation. Right? If they had, instead of 204,
Financial.
if they have 203 instead of 204, she's saying they may not build it. That was the statement. If they don't get this many, that they may not build it. That was the statement that was made. I call it a math equation. Sorry, that's just the way that I speak.
I was just wondering what math equation you were.
That's the math equation. that I was-
I'm trying to work it out.
She had the calculator out over there trying to figure out what I was talking about.
Well, it is, that just,
I mean,
The law.
that just means you're gonna have a little excess, and you're gonna have to lose a unit to make that work and meet code. It just means you can't divvy it up evenly, have the right of way work and the lot widths work. But we've put extra units in here to maximize the density.
preservation of property rights, that little interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of substantial rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance. The applicant's response, property rights of the applicant are preserved because the reduction of side setbacks, minimal reduction to lot depth for 7 lots and area requirements on 13 lots will resort in buildable lots conforming in all other aspects to the RTH MF 12 zoning district. The staff findings, staff does not believe that the literal interpretation of this ordinance will deprive the applicant of any rights for developing the property. And I would agree with staff findings on this. Does anybody disagree with that? The absence of detriment, that granting the variance requested will not create substantial detriment to the adjacent property, or that will materially impair or be contrary to the purpose and spirit of this chapter or the public interests. The applicant's response to the requested variance will not compromise or impact the value or suitability of these lots. Any other lots in the Elegance at Kenyon subdivision or any other surrounding areas of the development. The staff findings, the requested variance of reduction of lot size for the 7 requested lots will not impact any other properties for the public health, safety, welfare of the community. The maximum reduction of 150 square feet being requested is 5% of the required 3,000 square feet area requirement. I would agree with staff findings on this one as well. Does anybody disagree with that? Any other discussion before we consider a motion? If not, then I would entertain a motion. There is some suggested language in your package.
Are you wanting to split them?
No.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion that based upon the conclusions of each of our findings, I move to grant the request by TriStar Contractors for up to 150 square foot reduction of lot area for lots 50, 51, 52, 93, 94, 97, and 98 in the Elegance at Kenyon subdivision.
On a second.
Motion and a second. If you'll do a roll call for me, please, Samantha?
Kevin Murphy,
No.
Fred Langford,
No.
Don Sessoms,
No.
Tony Davis,
No.
Joey Engel,
No.
Brandon Swoboda,
No.
Jerry Harris,
No.
Ben Lewis,
No.
and Jeff Sanford.
I'm a no as well. Primarily because there was no exceptional hardship that was presented. Thank you, guys. We will have a BZA on the 15th. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn our BZA meeting.
John, a motion to adjourn, Board of Zoning Adjustments.
Tony, a second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Now I would like to call to order the City of Centerton Planning Commission, August 1st, 2023 with a roll call.
Brandon Swoboda,
Here.
Tony Davis,
Here.
Ben Lewis,
Here.
Don Sessoms,
Here.
Jerry Harris,
Here.
Fred Langford,
Here.
Kevin Murphy,
Here.
Joey Engel, Jeff Sanford.
I'm here as well. All right, first on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from 7/18 of 2023.
John, a motion to approve the minutes from 7/18/23.
Second, Stan.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, next on the agenda is the ratification of the admin approvals. There are two, home occupation for you host parties and the JC testing, I guess, office and admin used for the business. Are there any questions or comments in regards to the home occupations or the ratification of the admin approvals? If they're not, then I would entertain a motion to approve those.
This has been on motion to approve the ratification of administrative approvals.
Motion and second. Is anyone opposed? Next thing on the agenda under new business is track split 2311 Bergam, dedicating right of way at 974 North Main Street. The city and parent is 9.82. Track 1 is 2.8. Track 2 is 6.51. You want to cover this one, Lorraine?
Yes, this is a. Okay. This property is the property that you heard a rezone on last week, the last meeting. So this is just dividing that property between the two zoning districts. It's at 974 Main. And this on the front part will be zone C3. The rear is R2, single family. And then the track split is dedicated 45 feet along Main Street to the city, which will be accepted. If this is approved, will be accepted by the city council on or presented to them for acceptance on next Tuesday, August 8th.
My only question was the 974 North Main Street doesn't necessarily matter, right? Because there's technically, I think they have two addresses there.
House
One
there,
on
isn't it?
it, but the house has
Right.
two different addresses on it, so that doesn't matter, correct?
It's on here, it has 974, 976. We've just identified this project as 974 Main. That's,
And right away means master plan, right?
yes, it does. It's for a
Street plan.
minor arterial.
Any access easements for,
I thought it was on here. There is an access easement to the back property. And it is. It is,
Up that road, isn't it?
well, it's on the south.
part of
property.
that? That's the property.
I thought,
That's a flag lot.
Yeah.
It's a flag lot. There's no access. easement.
Right, it's. I feel like we're missing a page of the report. Okay. And I had also understood the 50 feet lined up with the adjacent street. Is that
Jason Street.
that doesn't seem to be.
If it was lined up through Jason Street, it would, make a non-conforming use and go through the house.
So the 50 feet will be offset from the edge of the adjacent street.
That what we want? You have anything that, you're not Brittany, so I can't call you Brittany, so if you do state your name for it. Right, Dustin Riley, yeah, thank you. Anything, any light to shed? Pretty much covers it. About that. The streets were going. I think didn't we talk about though, that from a safety perspective, it wasn't better to line up? Did we not talk about that? I don't remember.
I slept.
We
Last discussion.
talked about all kinds of stuff.
Joey hasn't.
Slept. Yeah, Joy had to sleep.
You're looking at development or the crack split. The crack split. If you're trying to adjoin it, you can't put it right across. Because the existing structure there.
Yeah, it's kind of the way that it lines up.
And if you line it up, then it goes right through the one piece.
It would create a non-conforming use. Then you'd be approving a track split that can't meet building requirements at all.
It's doing that right now with the
Already doing
setback,
This. type of emotion.
but I understand what you're saying.
Everybody else good then? If there are no other questions or comments, then I would entertain a motion for track split 2311.
This Jerry, I'll make a motion to approve track split 2311.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? The next one is track split 2310. SAC Townhomes dedicating easement at 485 East Centerton Boulevard. The parent is 8.57, track 1 is 6.28, track 2, 1.99. With the owner of SAC Townhomes.
Yep. This is the parcel that was previously a development of Stoneley Phase 2. That project has expired. The parcel is located between the Walmart property and the Stoneley Apartments. And it has, as you can see, it has the floodplain area to the north of the, well, on the south side of 102. With this track split, they are dedicating a variable utility easement along Highway 102. And I don't know what that variable width is right off. They could probably tell you a lot easier. Okay, it's shown. Looks like 30 feet to 47.
7.5.
And there's one building safety comment outstanding on location of septic and well from the original home. So that's at the south end of the property. That's at the top of the hill.
How does lot 1 have access?
There's an existing access easement that comes in through the townhome development to the east. Feeds into the
You
west
can
side.
see that drive shown.
I see it. I see it.
We asked for that, I think, whenever they. Any additional questions or comments? If not, then I would entertain a motion for track split 2310 SAC Townhomes dedicating the easement at 485 East Centerton Boulevard.
I'll motion to approve track split 2310 SAC Townhomes, dedicating easement.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? All right, next on the agenda will be a public hearing. This is for conditional use. 2304 Lester's short-term rental. A request for 5-year short-term rental at 300 Windsor Drive. It is zoned R3 single family in the Kensington subdivision. Is the applicant here to give us an overview of what you're requesting?
Sir, hey, I represent the applicant.
Your name?
My name's Nick Gatlin,
What do you want to do here?
and we just want to start a short-term rental in the property, sir.
Lorraine, do you want to give us a staff overview?
Okay, the address is 300 Windsor Drive. It's located in the Kensington Hills subdivision, which is zoning is R3 single family, which was our high density at the time. So it's considered medium to high density zoning. The applicant or the owner of the home is making the request for 5 years to use this as a short-term rental. They live out of town, and during the times that they are not here, they would like to rent it out. And yes, they use it for a vacation home right now, and they hope that within 5 years, then they will actually move here and make it a permanent residence for them.
And if it's, just want to let you guys know, I represent the property manager. We are on site, local. We have a professional team, 24/7 customer service for guests. So we are always available to handle anything that comes up.
Did y'all figure the certified mailings out?
We did. They have accounted for, they've gotten with the post office here, actually, and all of the notices were accounted for and matched up with corresponding numbers.
So we do need to open up to the public, so I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing for conditional use 2304. Lester short-term rental.
This is Joey. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing for conditional use 2304.
Second. Motion and a second to open the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? We're now open to the public. If anyone wishes to speak, we ask that you come to the podium, name, address, any questions or comments that you might have in regards to the request.
Hey, I'm James Connolly. I live at 320 Windsor Drive, so a couple of houses down from the rental property. I'm here to say I'm against it. I live in a family community. We don't live in a vacation spot. It's a single family, small town. I don't want a bunch of foot traffic there with people I don't know. I will add that, once the property was sold, nothing against the people that want to buy it or that purchased it. But it went for well over a month without even being voted. The yard didn't even get managed until they put the sign up for the public hearing. So I like to keep it as a family community. I know in the thing, they're big bikers. We don't live near bike trails. We don't live in an area like that. So we live in a small family, no through streets, safe area. I don't want to add a bunch of people that I don't know coming into the neighborhood. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Have any questions or comments? And last call for anyone that wishes to speak.
I just wanted to say real quick, guys, I've been in the short-term rental. Oh, sorry.
1 second for me. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Were there any online comments or anything?
No, well, this is it.
And receive.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. Is anyone opposed? All right, Nick, the floor is yours now if you can to make any comments?
Last name, Nick?
Gatlin. Guys, I ran a small company managing short-term rentals in the area for 3 years. This is a common fear and concern. I think it's fairly new business, fairly new thing that's come about here, and people are concerned. People are coming in and out of the community, foot traffic, parties, that kind of stuff. I will say, I manage over 125 properties in the area. I count on one hand the number of parties we ever had to deal with, and no property owner wants them in their property. It's not in their best interest. It's not in their best interest to have any kind of guests in there that aren't great people. These are typically families that come and stay in these properties, and they're typically people that take very good care of it. As the yard not being mowed, that was probably when the property owner did not have a manager yet. We will be taking care of all that, making sure the property is maintained. I also want to point out the property exists in a neighborhood that is largely a rental neighborhood, already has quite a few renters in that neighborhood. And typically these properties are even better taken care of than long-term rented properties, and actually brings up the property value. You know, I would encourage the gentleman that spoke to get the number of the local operations manager to talk to them whenever there's anything that comes up, if there is anything, and we definitely want to hear from him if there's any concerns. So.
Thank you. You give an overview. Man, it's been one of those nights.
I just did a real quick. I didn't go
Is there
over.
anything else that you need to add?
I do want to mention the covenants do not expressly prohibit short-term rentals. And also in your packet, you will see that the property management, they do a screening. They use- What do they call it? VACASA. Okay, to screen the guests for the rentals, there's certain cooking home for large capacity, but only 1 or 2 adults listed on the reservations. And I'm normally long stay at a property in a remote location or during off-season. I mean, these are things that are flagged. So they're looking for things that, you know, if the home could potentially be used for commercial purposes. Of course, payment, request for several people to call in with separate payments, that's a flag, and then credit card payments with different names. So having a property manager, and there, like he said, there are lots of rent homes in the area. Of course, it's connected to water and sewer. So they would be responsible for paying Airbnb fees, their additional fees to A&P. And then, of course, getting a fire inspection.
Am I mistaken? Is this the first one we've had for the short term?
For a single family home. It seems like there was one.
The one
more
that the
was
folks on the
over in
Reagan.
Tamarack.
Oh, you're right, Brian.
Yeah.
Across the street.
But there was one in Tamaron also that,
So the other one was the PUD that's.
Yeah. So I have a question. Are we at that point?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. If we approve this. And the neighborhood decides that they want to change their covenant to not allow for short-term rentals in their neighborhood, which trumps.
That's contractual between the homeowner and the rest of the surrounding homeowners.
Say that again.
It's contractual between the homeowner and the rest of the POA or.
So if
The
we.
homeowner subdivision, the homeowner
Trumps
association.
what we.
We would not enforce it.
Enforce
It
it.
would be between the two of them, breach of contract essentially.
Civil thing.
well,
I mean, yes, it's something to consider this evening, but at the end of the day, it has to be between them if they do something wrong with their property that they own. That's not within the covenants.
But it's been a long time since I haven't lived in a neighborhood in a long.
Let's go back to the grass. If if they had decided they wanted to go to court over the grass,
Yeah.
they could have done that, and that would have not done anything with us. It would have simply been a matter of the homeowner association and the property owner to do something about the grass.
I guess I'm just saying, if we approve it as a short-term rental. And the neighborhood comes back later and says they do a vote, they decide they want to amend their covenant. To not allow for short-term rentals in that neighborhood, but we've already said yes. Should we make a motion that says it's contingent?
We don't
upon-
consider the covenants.
Oh, we don't consider the covenant?
We're looking at the use of the land now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Neighborhood rules are different than the use of the land.
That played a,
It's a private, like Brian said, it's a private deal between.
well,
the homeowner.
why is it included on?
I haven't-
To let it, just it to let you know, I mean.
That's why I'm asking, because it's
We
included.
have approved things that were against covenants before. It's been a long.
It's something that I believe that the planning commission should consider what is in their covenants and not expressly allow something that would be in violation of.
Is a point to consider.
But I do want to also add that there is a general condition that we put on conditional uses. That's regarding if any complaints are received from neighbors or city personnel, this permit may be brought back to the planning commission for consideration of amending terms or revoking the permit. Because sometimes we'll try something and then there's, you have 10 cars, 10 different people trying to stay there, or there's, they're not complying, then it does get brought back.
Do they have an active POA in that neighborhood?
Not that I'm aware of.
So.
Do these type things have to have a business license as well? Yeah, we went through that the last time.
Yeah, they collect the A and P tax.
Is anyone opposed to the 5-year request? With everything that we just discussed? Anything, any other discussion, questions or comments? If not, then I would entertain a motion for the request for a conditional use 2304, the Lester short-term rental, which is for 5 years at 300 Windsor Drive.
Jerry, I make a motion to approve conditional use 2304, short-term rentals, rest 5 years, term rental.
Second.
Motion and a second. Samantha, if you'll do a roll call for me, please.
Brendan Swoboda,
Yes.
Bonnie Davis,
Yes.
Ed Lewis.
Yes.
John Sessoms,
Yes.
Jerry Harris.
Yes.
Ernst Langford,
Yes.
Devin Murphy, Joey Engel,
Yes.
and Jeff Safer.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is the development 2307, the Casa Castilla daycare preliminary plans at 148 Seba Road. As a reminder, it's zone C3. It has an PUD and it's 19.5 acres. If I know you've been waiting patiently.
Jeff, you're moving it.
Yeah, well, good evening, everybody. This is the same project that I approved a year or so ago. Our water bill just expired. And we're just running it back through. It's exactly the same, except for a few things staff have changed.
Oh, I'm sorry, the relocation's next, I'm sorry. Yep. I did know that they switched it. I think it was. It's just not in that location. We'll get you next.
It was approved where it's shown now. I mean, it's approved as part of the, are you saying part of the PUD?
Yeah, okay. Development. Actual development.
So all you're requesting,
Look, I mean, we came through with a large scale and got it approved, it expired. It was just like a year and a half ago. I think I remember that.
Yeah, I remember there was. I recall there was a gas station. They had the back right corner.
It's talking the PUD. This is
Yeah.
just We're talking just,
He's talking large scale.
I'm talking large scale. He's talking large scale.
Correct.
Okay. There's no.
It's been a long time ago.
Okay, there's, yeah, okay.
I'm 100% sure.
All right. Do you not show that it's been approved, Larry? We don't have a large scale, approved large scale for Casa Castillo?
I don't have anything that tells me that.
No, I remember.
Yes, they can
I remember.
say,
Sure.
Remember check the record. I would make sure the project number.
it's good.
2114.
2114.
Find it.
104. What it says on the.
I guess it doesn't matter, so we can prove it against that.
Just coming back before you anyway. At the large scale.
Large scale would be a DEP. Okay, so what they are proposing is the daycare moving to the northwest corner of the PUD property. It's 2.83 acres, and it is proposing a daycare of 13,500. 98 parking spaces. And we're gonna need to go to the drawing that shows the connection of a public road from Chatty Drive to Main Street. It will named Isabel Boulevard. It will also have a wet detention pond. And a portion of the private drive from Everly Drive that will travel off of Isabel Boulevard to the daycare. The detention pond is to the south of Isabel.
So is this I'm confused on, is this an approval?
Yeah.
Of the large scale that was previously approved before? Because it sounds like it changed, has it changed a lot since you designed it?
No.
Okay.
So this is what we saw on the large scale.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Exactly like that.
And then after this is approved, you're asking to change it?
Well, I just spoke to Kayla.
Next item.
Was it expired? We have to start over again.
Okay, but the location didn't change.
Approved large scale for this in the same location.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Long night.
So being confused, this is the way it originally was, we're just gonna try to go ahead and get it approved then.
Yeah.
After this is approved, we're gonna have, what you think about moving it down here?
Okay, and that's why I was saying, you want to get this approved, but then you're asking to change it after.
Okay.
That's exactly what I said.
Why didn't you just say that? Send him a bill. Get the approval. Send him a bill.
You owe me 15%.
So.
Well,
You're asking to reapprove what we already approved.
Yes.
And discuss moving that
That
piece.
It's gonna be a major ordeal to move it and do.
I mean, what are you expecting to be a major ordeal? Obviously, it's gonna be another large scale approval, right?
That's what I was.
It'll be your owner.
So do we just need to approve an extension or we just need to reapprove it as a new development?
That's expected. Fire say I do it again.
They didn't request an extension on the development.
Is there anything else that we need to discuss then?
Requested an extension, but too late.
Gotcha. All right. Any other discussion or comments from any of the commissioners? Anything else from staff?
We go through the report. Our surrounding uses, facilities. Connections.
Changes.
I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, as long as.
Nothing changed. Okay.
You're not trying to.
What they want.
Oh. Too much work up here to pull.
Jason Street improvement. Would like to discuss those?
Discuss what?
Anything on adjacent street agreements? On improvements,
That,
what they are?
that changed from last time, because
Let's talk about just what changed.
last time it got approved just like that. This time, staff is wanting us like to improve all the main.
That's
streets,
not what's.
and add a turn lane and
Okay, wait a minute, Jeff.
Move sidewalk and.
That's not what is in the efficient street. It's just stating that Main Street with a minor arterial is 90 feet of right of way. So they are required to dedicate 45 feet of right of way along Main Street, and then Seba Road is a major arterial with 100-foot right of way per master street plan, so they would be dedicating 50 feet of right of way along Seba Road. And then staff recommends approval of any developer is not proposing improvements to Seba with this phase and requests that requirements be determined with future phases that are along Main Street and Seba.
Well, we're talking about the improvements you had reflected on come and go, turn lanes and widening. Doing those now phase one, but this is on the farthest corner from it. The development that would ever be going there isn't, so doing any improvements along those sections of Main Street and Seba when development occurs along in that area.
I think that's a slippery slope, because you could develop everything but that.
Well, it's the only spot that can be.
The way that I look at this, just right now, before we said anything else, is essentially it's its current use right now. They're just moving it on the parcel, right? Just one building.
Right.
It's the cusp.
But where they're moving it
They'll
goes
have a
to the
different
main
access.
road. Yeah, but where they're moving it is on Seba instead of in the back corner tucked away.
So they're
Hold
actually,
on, are we talking?
Adjacent
I'm
street.
just talking about the large scale that was already approved, right? We're not talking about moving it.
I can't tell you what was approved on the previous. But on this one, they would be dedicating 40 foot of right of way, 45 foot of right of way along Main Street. On the entire length of the property. And 50 feet along Seba Road for the entire length.
It's dedication.
That's dedication. That's quite a bit of property to be dedicated.
has it been done with the dedication?
Has it been platted?
We talked about the dedication, we talked about access, we looked at the elevation and we looked at for Isabel Boulevard, the connection to Chatty. We talked about access and.
Right, and those are in here. Isabel Boulevard, I'm just talking Main and Seba. Isabel Boulevard is 50 to 60 foot right of way. It has a median most of the way until you get to the west. And so then it tapers down and excludes that median. To Everly is a 28-foot private drive, a 24-foot asphalt, 2-foot curb and gutter, 5-foot sidewalks. And they would vary, their location of the distance from this street, from Everly Street. There's areas where they go up 30 foot. So they're more meandering.
So with this large scale, in the same location that it was previously approved, rebuilding all of Isabel and then north up to the lot.
Yes, and put the water and sewer all the way up to that.
Get the connectivity to the west of that
Correct.
subdivision, which we talked about.
Connecting over that.
Even that.
And the detention pond.
What's the question?
What is the question? Is that acceptable?
I think that's similar to what we did before, right?
I can tell you, I don't have that in front of me to.
And I don't remember including all of the development of all the highway, because we don't know what was, I mean,
No, it was more if a turn lane be or sidewalk. Mind you, sidewalk would be a lot of utility relocation at that intersection. And I forget along Seba. With that extra dedication, be going back a little bit, I believe. I can't, can you scroll down?
I think the right of way needs to be dedicated, obviously.
Yeah.
But for both roads. I think.
So it'd be relocating, taking existing sidewalk, just relocating it back. To account for future width of SEBA. From where it is now. And again, pushing it back to account for a future turn lane on Main Street. It's all that sidewalk work, but there's a lot of utilities in all that area. So it's more so when they develop right in that corner or along SEBA on that front end or along that northeast, you know, your four quadrants. Doing adjacent street improvements when those developments come, she'll have a large scale development for each one of those coming in. Because drainage hasn't been accounted for to how to get drainage from there. into the pond for these yet.
Yeah, so you don't have a design for the full build out. I would say that, you know, if there's something that ties to SEBA that would warrant the, I forgot, we had a traffic, have we had a traffic study? Yeah, whatever those.
Adjacent road improvements were called for in that traffic study.
Yeah. Those traffic studies, man,
Which development?
and then a little bit low.
Wait, with just the Casa Casilla?
No,
the whole thing.
Was that done?
2 years ago.
But the traffic study looks at right
But it was a
now.
projection.
It was. It was 5 years.
It still includes the 2 years ago.
Yeah, so 3 more years to blow that out of the water.
Start building. But again, I mean, we've had others that we've been surprised by the same thing.
Yeah.
So
As I-
they did a traffic study here and
Wait for those traffic studies out.
The traffic study is used to see if there are additional requirements besides what is required by our.
What I remember from our commission meeting, when we had this PUD approved, we agreed to adding the traffic study. And per that traffic study, we would make adjacent road improvements if it were required. So that was a pretty comprehensive study. I think we paid about $20,000 to do it. And came back with nothing.
And if I remember, the concern at that point was connecting Isabella to Maine, how that would impact or reduce or impact this. That SEBA and Maine.
SEBA roads.
We did we talked about access from SEBA. We talked about the overhead power line. It's right there as well.
By reducing that traffic, by building Isabella.
Todd, do you recall, is there a crosswalk right there? On the north side of?
Yes.
Is there a head crossing like?
Yes.
Pole? There is.
There's a crossing of Main Street, yes.
It all got them. I think that all got done whenever they did
The light.
Yeah, well, the button's there.
Because remember because it was delayed.
You just crossed.
They didn't do it right the first time or
I
something.
wouldn't walk across there.
So I mean, I don't know. What
So part of,
we're asking for tonight.
We
What it
we
was-
have to
what was
reapprove,
approved.
because it expired, we have to reapprove. And
Yeah.
that's really,
The only thing before you currently is.
Sure, but I thought there was a question about what street improvements and how.
Well, I'm not even sure that everyone was on the commission when it was. So it's.
stop with it, but if we, I mean, I think if we put this, so if we put the same requirements to do a traffic study. They're already got a traffic study that was done that goes out at least 5 years.
We can take that traffic study and we can look at it and review it and. Basically critique it and send our questions back to the engineers. I can't
Not do that.
imagine that
Huh?
there are absolutely no requirements. No impact of.
I'm really struggling to believe that.
And I have
There's
heard.
been others that have surprised.
Another engineering company that they get a lot of traffic studies to. Put in a rebuttal on their calculations and so.
But I mean, at the end of the day, we most likely wouldn't require anything than what they already did from a. I mean, again, they did the traffic study with a 5-year, looking out.
No, well, with our code, there's certain requirements of adjacent road improvements.
That's your question.
The traffic study, a lot of times we'll have it to see if there's anything in addition that extends, if there's any impacts beyond that.
It'd be like a turn lane or anything
And it
extra
didn't call for
above.
that,
Pardon?
and it didn't call for anything extra.
What the code call.
I would have to I don't.
Curb and gutter,
Here is,
curb and gutter sidewalk,
That was it.
storm sewer. The storm sewer.
I mean, they conceded to put sidewalk. Yeah, see, had already been improved. And Main Street's state highway, so that's always a lot more difficult work on the state. I think he's more worried about getting hung up because we don't know. The mayor said they spent millions of dollars on that, and then he's like, I don't know what you're gonna have to spend, if we have to improve all this and add turning lanes, and you got a blind. If you say, oh, you're gonna have to prove this in the future, but you don't know what that is, you don't wanna have a blank $1 million check sitting out there.
Are you talking about for like on the corner of Main and Seba?
Yes.
Turn lane on southbound Main Street.
Yeah.
It's gonna require significant utility relocations. Relocation.
For sure. For sure. I don't,
We're
Not-
not.
not adding a drive to Seba.
Point at this time.
That's the rub right now. Right now, it's not required, it's only the right of way. But the way it's worded, whenever they develop the next phase, phase 2, then they're gonna have to do it, but we don't know what that is, other than, I guess.
It's gonna take more of a holistic design, I think, to figure out what that is. I mean, we're gonna have to design the whole frontage on the curb and gutter. And I mean, that's just what it is. It's gonna have to happen regardless.
Because what you put there may dictate the amount of traffic and some other things, so. I mean, that's the reason I think we
Left it up.
I mean, I understand it says it might say gas station, but all of a sudden, now there's one going across the street, so somebody wants to put a restaurant or they want to put something else. I mean, that's the nice idea behind the PUD. That it could impact the traffic, and so I think that's probably why we left it the way that we did.
I think the initial concept was a gas station, a small restaurant.
It was a gas station on the corner.
Gym,
When the gym's up.
Yeah, the gym was up and then like a recreation center, but there was a gas station on the corner.
That had to-
So the way it's written is it allows for the potential for us to request. Or at least have discussions about the future development and what that looks like. I don't think we can put a limit on it, Jeff. I mean, that's the thing.
Okay.
I mean, right?
This is just for Casa Castillo, just for the daycare improvement of the development plan. Their next item is discussion on the whole PUD. So I think we're kind of mixing. And it's getting confusing.
I'm good with the large scale.
Does the adjacent street agreement say that, does the adjacent street agreement state that street improvements will be reviewed based on future large scale developments, middles?
I do not have the PUD in front of me.
I'm saying the adjacent street agreement for Casa Castillo.
Oh, had that statement, that,
Yeah, so I mean, as the next large scale submittal, so when
I mean, that
the
is.
southeast corner builds or the
It
northeast.
just begs the question on what's the criteria for road improvements?
Well, it's typical that with any new large scale that comes in, that you review what is needed at that time. I mean,
But we know that there's improvements needed. Right? We know that.
yes,
So what's the trigger to,
I don't know, just cast, that's what.
Those frontage property.
Discuss in the next item. I just want to get through this item.
okay, let's focus on the large scale.
So everybody's gonna, part of approving this is the adjacent street agreement.
So what street? Do you agree with the street agreement? As proposed by staff. Of Isabel
Is it public?
Boulevard as a public street.
Mhm.
Beverly Drive is private. Main Street, dedication of 45 feet. Seba Road, dedication of 50 feet. And future improvements will be considered with each phase of the PUD.
Yeah. I think Isabel needs to get constructed in full, right? Sidewalk, curb and gutter, storm sewer, all that. And then dedicate right away on Main and Seba.
I'm gonna ask it. Okay. So I wasn't here. I don't, when was this voted on? Was I?
21.
21.
21.
I wasn't a part of that.
Nope.
Oh, so it's not your fault.
So this is all news, all new to me. So I can't just accept what's here and just say, well, y'all voted on it before. I'm gonna trust everybody in the room that this is exactly what was there before.
Why not?
Why not?
Well.
Okay, so, I mean, I hate to do this to you, but you needed to extend it, you know? I'm starting over. This is brand new.
I agree.
That's fair. And so, I mean, I want a thorough look at this.
Well, I think there's some responsibility on the city's behalf that if it was approved before, if no codes have changed, then there really shouldn't be any adjustments to the approved plans.
But I don't know what was approved.
I understand,
Unless
but
we
you
go
were-
back over that today and in thorough.
That's the only I only feel comfortable asking that
So I don't know if I abstain from the vote or if
I
I'm.
can say with this large scale, they did submit it, we did send comments to update things that need some of the code. I know that Isabel Drive got a bit wider because the space between the curb and the island didn't meet fire code, had to be 15 feet. So that's one of the changes they made.
I reviewed all this again.
They made a goal.
Yeah, I mean, and hear my heart, I'm not doubting.
So
It's just,
I just want to say, the reason that we have a 1-year term on approval is because if there are any changes that come up that we have found that don't work on a previous approval, we can make those corrections. So just because it was approved a year ago, we may need to relook at this as what it is today.
I think we're missing the mark if we're not sticking to the code, approving it, holistically reviewing it every single time.
Changed the last year.
If the code's changed, then yeah, that's one thing.
The drainage,
That's exactly what I said the first time.
right, that's,
Code's changed, that's what needs to be reviewed.
Did I understand you moved the drainage pond from where it was?
It's all, it's the same spot.
So let me. So tonight, what I'm hearing though is we don't have those exact changes other than to the drive or, I mean, we don't have a diagram that shows what the change, what it was originally.
when we reviewed this, we did not look at, I mean,
It was like a brand new project. They went through it for 2 months and we went back and forth and.
this is just recently.
This year, since when they
It's like brand new.
apply for it, it never expired.
I haven't even got to the slide even, the landscape.
So instead of looking at this as an approval of what's already been approved, just brand new.
Brand new.
Brand new,
Yeah.
brand new.
Okay, that's my question. It's brand new. We've reviewed this in light of all the new codes that have occurred between the last rendition and now.
Yeah, let's just treat it brand new and go through our normal process.
That's what I'm requesting.
Fair enough.
Just making sure we're doing.
Second.
All right, so adjacent street agreement, is there anybody? Well, I think it's already been spelled out, right? I mean, that we have the Isabel Drive that's gonna be constructed. It has changed a little bit. Everly Drive is private. Main Street, there's a dedication right away. Seba Road, there's a dedication right away. And then there is an opportunity as they develop phases, additional phases, if you will, around Seba and Main that requested changes or requested improvements could be made based on the openness of the adjacent street agreement that's presented. Is that correct?
Or adjacent street agreement item, yes.
Okay,
There are still,
I understand. I'm trying to check them off.
I need it back.
Is there anyone that that would like changes or any comments in regards to the adjacent street agreement that presented?
What is presented? Is that sidewalk proposed?
Not for this phase.
So no street
Well,
improvement.
But hey, but Jeff, we're not on the phase right now, right? I mean,
Right.
We're looking at the whole thing.
Right now, it's just the large scale for this and to build this, they're gonna build this street. They're gonna put all the water and sewer up here, they're gonna build a detention pond, put this storm sewer in, and that's it.
There are
Phases would be sidewalk or whatever, you know.
Along with the right of way dedication.
And dedicating the right of way now for the whole. And you are doing sidewalk on.
There are 5 foot sidewalks along Isabel Boulevard and I'm.
Yes, they will.
correct, But I can't get an answer.
I just,
Ponds in here.
Did I understand there's a sidewalk along Main Street?
no, not yet. It's required in the future, but.
But it will be required.
Yeah.
You're saying there are not sidewalks on Isabella or need, or are?
There.
There are.
And the reason they're not doing anything on Main Street now is because of the expense of extending all of these utilities. And building this street for just this one little project. Yeah, but the utilities for the rest of the project.
Yeah, and you're still gonna use those utilities.
Yeah. I don't know.
The rest of the project, I don't,
Does anyone here want to look and see what the building looks like or you all remember?
Brandon wants to.
Brandon,
Here you go. So it includes metal and painted masonry. And
That looks nothing like the old Caulfield
no, it's changed a little bit. So,
I think it's good.
Boards or something, piece of the roofs or something.
how many rooms?
It'd be 15 classrooms.
14 classrooms. Okay, and what was the opportunity? I wrote it down somewhere, but not on this.
A couple questions, so I'm just going through the staff findings here, reading this. The open space, the dedicated green space, we just changed some of that, adapted some of that. Has that all been included in your required open space here?
Well, the PUD, when they had the PUD approved, it was 15%, so they would be held to that. But they are actually dedicated
Expired.
25% with this development.
The PUD has not.
They're exceeding
No.
the PUD. Now, just on the pond, just so that you're aware, it's a wet pond. It has 2 fountains. The normal water depth is 5 feet. And then there's like 7.4 feet to the top of the pond. So the total depth of the pond is 12.4 feet. I was.
Is there any,
It's a 3-to-1 slope. I was concerned about, is there a fence proposed around this pond?
there is a fence?
There is a fence. Okay. That was. What type of fence? Wrought iron? I think you have to
Black
be.
chain
able-
link. Black chain link.
Okay, the commission in their code, it does state that. the-
What is our code on fencing for something like?
It states that the planning commission can require a certain type. It does mention wrought iron.
Yeah, I'd like that.
I think wrought iron is usually your standard. Is more of a standard than you would see for chain.
I don't want black chain.
And the height also is typically.
Only 4 feet.
Yeah, four,
Wrought iron is 4. You couldn't.
under 24 and 6.
No, I thought it. Like the one at Willow Crossing, I believe it, I was thinking it was an 8-foot.
I had a question. What was approved last time?
So, pardon?
What was approved last time?
I have no idea.
Unless the code changed, I feel like we need to stick to that.
It didn't.
I know.
You remember what it was? You remember what it was before? Was it spelled out?
Yeah, I heard it was spelled.
I think it was, I don't recall the fencing being specified.
I think we were still discussing that. in the fall here.
I would say that's an item that maybe staff needs to look into and come back on with this. I mean, it would.
It's kind of
I
hidden.
know it states as
the pond is kind of hidden.
Oh, wait a minute.
Temporarily, I would request a black chain link fence. Once we develop around it, I can see and probably would like a upgraded fence.
To me, it's more visible now because there's no buildings in front. Right? From the right of way, from a public.
Far away from the roads. as well.
Wouldn't it cost you, well, I mean, but you're doing double effort there then.
Yeah.
Ray fence and permanent fence.
Jeff, I got a question for you.
I know.
Well, and this might go back to the hunter too.
Well,
As far as modifications to Main Street, there's gonna be no curb and gutter, right? No storm sewer. Nothing but that sidewalk, right?
And right away, like.
Yeah, I'm more concerned about the corner of Seba and Main and Seba. Based on recent discussions with your staff.
Okay, as far as that sidewalk,
As far as the cost of potential future road improvements.
oh, I got you.
Of all the utilities along Seba. And the corner of Seba and Main. That would basically be a development killer if we were required to pay for moving all those utilities.
Well, eventually, that's gonna be a cost that somebody incurs,
Right,
right?
a neighborhood commercial with, a doctor's office, the type of stuff we would put here.
You pick the property because it's on the corner, right? Well, that's, you got some give and takes there.
Well, it's the
I don't understand
power lines and all the utilities.
Yeah, the mayor told us they spent like $3 million on it, which would just kill it. But I mean, that's the heart of our town. I mean, that's the heart of our city. I mean,
That's the second busiest intersection.
buys that property, develop it, that's what you're gonna get into.
this isn't the first time you're hearing about that power pole.
Yeah, so.
But again, what I'm just trying to look at is what's being touched on Main Street now, what will be touched in the future.
That's my question.
And if that sidewalk is appropriate to go in with this development, since you are, from what I can see, doing the only modification to Main Street with this whole project right now. Is that your question, Jerry?
Yeah, I was wondering, if in future, there will be a sidewalk and green space.
Well, yeah, but the question tonight is when is it?
When do you get that sidewalk? What Joy's saying, do it now since you're doing it.
I think that's my question too. I mean, Jeff, I'm just going, the phase is, we're doing the SEBA stuff, we're running all the utilities and moving the building all the way at the back. All of that back corner, right? And we're doing the retention pond, we're doing the fountains, putting the fence around it, all that stuff. So we're gonna be able to see all of that development and everything all along Main. And I think that's my point as well, is like, I mean, you started developing this entire property. And so if Seba and Main are what border your property, you gotta develop along the street. Regardless of whether or not you're gonna develop from Casa Castillo up to Main.
The
What I'm looking
typical deal is if you're gonna start this project, you're gonna do all the offsite improvements in one go. But I think there's room for discussion here
Yeah,
on that because of the nature of what's coming in there. We don't really know what's coming.
yeah, or how long until it gets there.
Exactly.
I am, at the end of the day, are we gonna have curb and gutter on Seba and Main?
Oh, man.
This project?
Not on Main.
Okay.
Seba should though.
So what will we have on? We're not gonna have.
Sidewalk. That road.
That's with RDOT. It's not.
Oh, just sidewalk.
A lot of that restriction is driving there, you have that ditch and then it 3 foot, 4 foot up, so not sure where that lines up with everything. But
So all of this sidewalk will be installed and all this sidewalk will be installed.
Correct.
Y'all just worried about this to get down to Lake Come and Go?
And to the north, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, for now, we settle for that and then do that north one when they do this.
I think that makes sense. You don't have a lot of.
Yeah, that's a good
you don't
spot.
Have a lot of pedestrian traffic from the north. I think that's a great compromise.
I see what you, yeah.
The only worry in some of that sidewalk is putting it in and needing to take it out later for improving that corner at all.
Correct. But the worry on the SEBA portion that you have, is that like adding a turn lane or what specifically are you worried about?
Having to extend another lane, which would require us moving the power lines.
Sure.
Right turn, you're worried about a right turn lane off of Main Street.
Power lines and the
Yeah.
stoplight too.
Well, no, I don't know. So this has been a long time ago, right? Your traffic studied specific uses there, right? That's all subject to change. So that answer has to be subject to change based on what goes in there.
So a question about that then. So on the original, there's no turn lane coming off Seba to make a right and go up. Right? So when you turn left, if I'm going north, I guess I'm coming up Main, turn the left on Seba, coming goes right there, turn the left on Seba to go to head to west. In order for me to make a right and to go onto this property here, there is no turn lane.
Correct. Well, that road's not gonna be there with the Casa Castillo either. They're not building that north-south Everly,
Oh, not yet.
not yet. All the access will be through Main Street.
All the access will be on Isabella via Main. At this point.
I mean, we don't have the traffic study in front of us, but I don't think it said that we needed to do a right turn lane.
Man, I can tell you.
I'm just telling you.
I know. I mean,
Well, we put it
I
out there.
think your concern's real valid, because I think that there's probably gonna
I
happen.
would agree with.
Yeah.
We should discuss any lanes, turn lanes at the time.
I just don't, I don't see.
To be fair, when we-
I understand what you're saying. That's gonna be.
Just 2 years ago, none of the other properties around it that were proposed for commercial had plans.
Say that again?
When we discussed this, all the other commercial properties around it didn't have any plans, just
the county.
well, that wasn't, no, not when we discussed this.
That's the only one that has plans right now.
Is there?
It's the land of sold across the street.
If that's required, I mean.
Right.
I mean, I'm talking to in my own work right now about shared costs with the city to make improvements on street and stuff. I mean. Did you discuss that with the mayor or was that a?
We don't own Main Street though. It's a state.
We can't.
But I'm thinking more about,
You,
I'm thinking about SEBA for the future. But again, I mean, Maine could be an issue too.
I mean, I think Maine's potentially the bigger one,
Yes. That's a good point.
but we don't own that. It's a state thing, so.
And the state won't do anything until after the fact.
Yeah.
So do we want to talk about what you guys want to talk about after this?
kind
That
of,
tie in?
I kind of want to talk about it, yeah.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
think that impacts what we're thinking about SEBA.
So, we would like to move. Consider moving the daycare. To the corner of Everly.
Southwest.
In front of the detention. pond. This came about. The anchor of our development was gonna be a fitness center. And staff is informed as they're looking at. a community center. So I don't. I'm pretty concerned about.
So you didn't convince the mayor to put the community center on his property?
No, he likes his baseball fields over there.
That's what he's asking.
They own land already and then for the.
Sorry, purchase.
So I talked to the mayor, before we did our development. He said. It didn't look like we'd be able to get a community center money for it for a long time. And so we felt like what you're looking at up here is like the third go at this property. We had tried other things. And finally, we decided with this and, the community, talked to the community and everybody wants an indoor pool. So that's how we arrived at putting the daycare in the back corner, imagining this anchor up along Main Street. So to put all this infrastructure in. It's about $2 million for just a daycare. Without knowing what, is gonna go along Main Street at this point, makes me uneasy. And I feel much more comfortable about putting it along Seba. The site work to do that is much, much less. The other, I did have a updated site plan that could be put up here that kind of illustrates that.
You'll have that.
Oh, we gave them,
Is it this one?
didn't have time to put it on.
Yeah, that's it. I just threw some storage in there.
So we do have a storage building, indoor storage building approved. And,
A lot of storage being built too, by the way, just, she had that putting up around the corner.
yeah,
That kind of storage
72.
wouldn't be approved either. Well, approved for the PUD is the 100% indoor, all air control.
the aspirations for this area are different from the reality. It's been talked about, like a Target or other retail type business coming in here from staff. That would never happen. This is a neighborhood commercial type development. And for us to do the improvements along Seba of moving those power lines and extending the road would be very cost prohibitive to anything neighborhood commercial. And with the development of the community center, now I'm second guessing this plan saying, should I move it, back along Seba? And then the staff said, if we move it along Seba, you got to move those power lines, expand Seba Road. That's a lot of money.
I mean, surely this isn't the first time you've thought about the offsite road improvements though, right? How did we get this far and this is?
It's on the planning commission meeting prior. What I took away from that meeting, we were gonna do the traffic study. Whatever that traffic study came back at, we would determine what other adjacent street.
Be done or not? Okay.
That's what I took away from that.
I don't verbatim remember that traffic study, right? I know we looked at it, I know they presented it. But you can't hold to a traffic study if, you don't want to change the traffic study, but want to change stuff on this piece of property, which I completely get. But I think those two are fluid together where.
Well, we would be doing less
here.
if you don't have the community center. That's a lot less traffic.
Right, right. And maybe it's just a revision to the traffic study. I don't think anybody's saying right now, and I don't think no one can tell you that definitively, yes, you're gonna have to do something here. If you got that impression, I don't think
his
that's correct.
His concern is the way the adjacent street agreement is written, it leaves it very open for the future.
Well, even so now I talked to the staff about moving it along Seba. And the feeling that I got from staff was that we would have to agree to a fee of expanding Seba, which would have the utility changes associated with that. Which would be very, very expensive.
So there's two options up to the planning commission discretion. It's either you construct them, which in my opinion is the best option, or there's a fee in lieu of option.
If the power lines weren't there, it wouldn't.
I
be good.
understand. So, but is this power line talk all hinged around an additional turn lane? Or is that gonna have to be
4-foot widening?
a 4-foot widening is gonna impact the power poles? And then it is what it is. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
then yeah, I mean, that's.
Seba is gonna be a major, the master road plan calls that to be expanded.
Right. Always has.
But we gotta pay for the sins of the past, and those power lines are right there, so.
The improvements to see were there regardless of what goes in and all of that. That was from the get-go, like the street improvements. That's standard with any project with public street frontage. So if the power lines can stay in place with the typical improvements and your development here right now doesn't warrant the turn lane, then great. But if regardless of, if the turn lane's gonna make the power lines get relocated, or if just the standard offsite improvements are gonna get them relocated, then there's nothing we can do about that. That is what it is.
I mean, we have or just a daycare on there. What would be the expectation? I think that was the discussion I wanted to have about moving the daycare along Seba. Would we be required to expand?
Your question is, do you touch all of Seba or just the frontage of the daycare? Right?
No, I mean, any street improvement,
Yes, you will have street improvements on Seba.
if we develop along. So in my opinion, if that's the case, that 10 acres probably doesn't get developed until the road gets improved.
That road probably doesn't get improved until it gets developed. See the problem?
Because there's a,
Let me jump in here. So we just made a major shift in our discussion here because we went from the previous drawing where it was up in the north,
Northwest.
we went for this drawing and I mean, I was thinking, oh my gosh, you're gonna be putting in all this stuff and yes, we want stuff up Main and and now we're just talking about moving the daycare from where it is now to this corner over here,
yeah, the development that happened.
which is a lot less than what we just talked about.
So as far as improvement, it's like you got you cut out all the water main.
Yeah, we've now we're
Cut
not
out
doing any of that.
Isabella.
Yeah, so now we're not doing any of that. So really what we're talking about is you want to develop this parcel, which needs to include the pond back there, which needs to be protected because of the daycare there. We're talking about that. And if you're gonna be expanding this and making Casa Castillo bigger, there will have, in my opinion, there will have to be a turn lane. There will have to be some way of getting traffic off of.
I don't know that we can say that without a traffic study that warrants that. That's how we turn lanes.
We can't. I know. I hear what you're saying.
But his question is, does he have to do any improvements?
The 4-foot widening that would.
Widening, curb and gutter, sidewalk. On
Are you
if they
go to the next item?
Yes, of
course, yes. Well, yeah, we've been there.
I know you've been-
We've been back and forth. And so we don't,
From the front to the middle of the.
we don't have an electronic copy of the traffic study that was done 2 years ago. I'm asking, that's a question, sorry. That's a question.
I don't have access, but we can, I don't have.
Can I just say, I just don't think we can vote on letter D. Because it's totally different than what we're talking about in A.
Yeah, I think that y'all are gonna come back, but I think we need to advise staff on what we need help with understanding so that we can make some educated decisions, because I think if you're requesting a complete change, I think and Jeff, if you all have been talking for 2 months, I think we're not prepared. And maybe there's the right people aren't here to that, I don't know, but I think we need to understand. Because your contention is the traffic study said X. But now we're like, all right, well, how does it apply? So there could be an update, don't know. Because what you're proposing potentially changes that traffic study. So, and I honestly, I think your concern or question will most likely to the commission, maybe staff, around what that says. And so if it says "Hey, there's no improvements, then your argument and your design and staff and us is different than if it says we need to do a 4-foot improvement, we need to do X, Y, and Z, then I think that changes the whole discussion. Understanding that you spent $20,000 on it already. I have no idea if the last 2 months, if you guys have talked about it. I don't know. We don't have any of that tonight. So what I'd like to see, and I hate to make you guys come back. We'll try not to do it before we have a BZA that takes an hour and a half, right? And if we can sneak under old business. But I think, although nobody wants to talk about what was approved before, I think we need to understand what was approved. At least I also want to understand what the requested changes are. And then the supporting documents behind that, because that helps us all make an educated decision instead of throwing this out and that out. So if it's Main Street improvement on a sidewalk half, then I think it needs to be spelled out. I don't think it's easy for any of us. We all have different questions tonight, really understand everything that you want to do, including the fact that now there's this discussion around the community center and some other things. So I think that would help us. It also helped me facilitate 8 other people that have questions or comments in regards to trying to be able to pull this together. And honestly, it may even be, I mean, I don't want to throw a feasibility study out, but you mentioned storage. Well, there's a lot of storage going in. So I know you threw it up there as an idea, but is that truly feasible? So I don't know, maybe it's kind of going back that way a little bit and say, okay, here's kind of what A looks like and here's what B looks like. And here's where we were, here's where we want to go, because that's really where we're at this point. And that might help us solidify and kind of help you out if that makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would like to get the large scale in the back corner approved tonight. And then I just wanted your feedback on if I came back and we had this discussion about moving it to SEBA, what the road improvement would entail.
And I don't think
some high level.
I don't think you know that, because here's just, I'm just talking out loud quick, right? And I'm by no means an engineer, I'm an everyday person. But what I don't remember from the traffic study is, did the traffic study say that if you're gonna have 200 kids in a daycare, are they gonna use Isabella Drive 50% of the time? And they're gonna go on Main Street versus today, versus the new version, you wanna dump 200 kids onto SEBA instead of 50% of them using Main and 50% of them using SEBA. So it changes the dynamic. Right? So it might, I can't be that definitive. I don't think anybody up here would say that they could. But that's what we need to consider whenever we're gonna potentially approve something. Does that make sense? Or did I not?
I think
hear
a
your question
definitive
right?
answer would be, you would be required to meet the code, which says you're gonna have to do the minimum offsite street improvements, which is the 4-foot widening, curb and gutter, sidewalk. Like that is, that's the best case scenario for
Widening is the standard.
whatever, no, it's whatever it is.
38-foot back-to-back curb and gutter. So it'll be widening it to account for 3 lanes, where now it's just 2 wide lanes.
And with come and go across the street, there was some.
They're doing that in turn lane.
Jeff, has the traffic study been done and we just don't have a copy of it?
It was done 2 years ago. And
2
we-
years ago.
And we don't have a copy, but it was a 5-year forward.
But the 5-year forward, Jeff, was before any of the land around it was.
I'm just telling you what it said. I mean, I didn't make it up.
Only like about a year. It was the.
Yes, it was done 2 years ago,
So we just don't have.
and we don't have a copy tonight, which is one of the things I would like to have.
Which
We have further discussions.
the changes that have been talked about. The traffic study changed because of that?
I think we need to review it and see what it said. That's what I don't know. That's the reason I threw the Isabella Drive out. I mean, we don't know what was considered for it. Dumping on Main versus something dumping on SEBA. I'd have to look at it to see exactly what it said. And I think we probably need that to facilitate part of the discussion.
I'd recommend that you talk to Jeff about the offsite street improvements, because Jeff is aware of this. This happens everywhere in all different communities. And he could probably get you pointed straight on what to expect. As far as a minimum offsite street improvement without any turn lane provision. Because that's one question, right? But then the question was, you wanted high level on what would be required. That would be.
Okay, so the 38, okay, I can talk to Jeff about that. So can we go back to,
Eric, don't worry about finding it tonight, which we're not going to solve it. There's a lot of other questions I think that we need to solve for, but thanks for looking for it, but. This is the new site. Okay. No, I saw you up there. I thought you were looking for the. I was trying to rotate the page. Okay, sorry about that. I thought you were trying to find something. All right.
we go back to considering the large scale in the back corner then.
I'm confused on why you want to do that because why not just redo, since it's already expired, why not redo it with the Casa Castillo up front, where do you want to put it? And propose that?
Well, I think if it's true that we're gonna have to expand the road, the power lines are prohibitive. We can't do it there. So,
and that's what Joey was just saying, like that is going to be a requirement because that's the code. And so that being the case, are you now saying that you actually want to go back to your original where it is in the back corner?
yeah, the plan tonight was to get that approved first, then have a discussion about if we move it.
Well, but your thought process is that if we approve it as it is, that you won't have to make any improvements on SEBA is your thought process, right?
Not yet, not yet,
Immediately.
but just know you know it's coming. Yes, it's going to be in the future at some point.
So,
And but what you're proposing in your first rendition seems to me, I haven't looked at numbers, I think, pretty significant.
It is, yeah. It's a whole road section.
I mean, compared to what we're talking about with the SEBA thing.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to help you out because, I mean, it's a pretty significant corner in our city and we want you to win and we want it to win for the city, so.
Yeah.
I remember the initial conversation was the daycare and storage, correct? Because we needed to be able to cash flow the rest of the project, right? Is that kind of still the same thought pattern?
yeah, we can, we can move the storage building to the north side. It was gonna be on the south side. The two big buildings, one was gonna be the fitness center, one was the storage. So just put the storage on the north side.
The storage hasn't been approved yet. That's just a desire of yours.
The use was
The
on the
use is approved.
not total storage.
Okay, so I thought you said something
I
earlier.
don't mean the mud storage rooms. It seemed like we had already discussed the daycare.
For sure.
Might change now.
Discussion.
And then the storage within the PUD was the all interior climate control.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, not the typical outdoor storage.
Okay, thank you.
PUD call for-
Catching up on that one.
PUD call for a specific. Especially since the neighbors here that's worried about what it's gonna look like up there.
Right. Thank you. I didn't.
Same outdoor, the one that was denied. That's just one property.
As a contingency for you, I don't have a problem approving this. Personally. Does anybody else?
I don't either. And I think there's some future stuff that will have to be considered, but.
Do you want to look at the landscaping or?
I'm gonna trust that
It'll be following code.
you did that last time.
Well, the code, actually, we didn't have a landscaping code then.
Well,
We have one now.
I'm,
We don't have one yet.
whatever.
You're right. 90% wrong.
You can put it on there though, if you want to.
You go to the draft.
Where it's located here.
Which is where?
It's up here.
So Lorraine, is your question,
Okay, yeah.
do we agree with the lighting in the landscaping. There's not anything in the notes that would flag me
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's where I.
to look at it.
Yeah, right.
So is there something different?
Did it change?
Thank
Is there-
you.
Typically, you'll make certain requirements for landscaping if you don't want to.
Did landscaping or lighting change from the first?
Well,
Landscaping didn't, they had us add some more parking lot. We got a new lighting.
We just had to call out different species because some was not identified as, working with the emergency street trees, so we just had to adjust some.
So
It needs to go.
like to live with the landscape plan.
There it is, landscape.
We'll put it up.
The trees.
The only change was species though, right?
Right.
do they show them in the parking lot up on by the daycare?
Islands.
Says one tree shall be, well, this is,
Well, we talked heavily about screening that area next to the neighborhood as well. And they did. I see the big trees next to the neighborhood.
Is there something specific within here, Lorraine, that you want us to look at?
no, I just want you all to be, I just want you all to know what you're approving, it's basically what.
Is this moving it back to the back corner? This is the back corner.
Yes, this is the
Corner.
We asked for heavy screening there, which looks like they've done.
I don't know how to approve this, knowing that we might be moving this thing up front.
Now, this doesn't,
Yes, that's worth it.
this approval is separate, then if they change it, then they have
Take
to.
them all the way back.
He was just throwing this next item out just as a discussion, just to get a feeler. And if he feels good about that, he had to come right back and change all this again. Right?
He may say, hey, I'm still building my fitness center.
So I'm gonna ask staff, has staff reviewed it versus the old one? And it all.
Really changed the trees.
They submitted it at comments, they changed it twice or 3 times after that.
Sure, and we had some stuff like the street that where the width changed, yeah, I totally understand. Yep.
Is there any? So. If we're going to approve it, we would. Again, there were no other questions about the adjacent street agreement. We left the SEVA improvements for future in there. With the right of way. On both. Correct.
Very dedicated now.
Yeah.
Future improvements.
Okay.
It was the safety fence on the pond, if you want to specify what it is. Oh, where'd my code go? It says the discretion of the planning commission, you may be required to install fencing around the perimeter of detention basins. And criteria to be determined by planning commission. If wrought iron fence is required, it will meet the requiring, that's having a top brace at 5 foot. And a bottom brace 4 inches above. But that's only if wrought iron is required. Doesn't say. It is, it's, if it is, there's certain requirements. That's if safety fence is even required from you guys. Which.
The drop pond?
Depth. Wet
It's a
pond,
wet pond?
wet pond.
Yeah, so
has
we
a
definitely have to have a fence.
5 foot depth and. I mean, it's a
And then it's
big
7
shot with a daycare right there,
over 7 feet.
highly visible.
So when I,
And I'm
when
sorry.
I look at the building. And then I think chain link fence, they just don't connect. And I get it's an expense.
You're wanting to develop a very nice property here and I love the design of the daycare. And I don't want to downgrade chain link, but it just doesn't seem to fit with what you're trying to do for the whole property. Is there a way that we can get a nicer fence around it? Instead of chain link? I mean, we can require it, but I thought I'd ask you to, I don't know if it's double or triple, I don't know. I haven't done any fencing, but it just makes sense to be a little bit nicer, I think, for the property.
It'd just be the aluminum that looks like the wrought iron. Black aluminum around most of the detention ponds. Normally it's a 4 foot tall. You know,
How tall does it have to be?
nobody, it's just keep it.
So, wrought iron, what it says is that the top brace has to be at 5 foot.
It's a tall fence.
I mean, is there a reason we
Wrought
wouldn't,
iron that sticks up above a bit more typically.
is there a reason we wouldn't use aluminum? I'm asking, I don't know.
I think it's a wrought iron look.
It is a wrought iron.
It looks
Wrought iron.
like wrought iron, but where they have the price,
It's aluminum.
especially nowadays.
But is anybody opposed to that versus a chain link if it's aluminum and it's the nicer looking?
I think the wrought iron was the intent, this is just look wrought iron.
What'd you say?
It looks like wrought
I
iron.
think our intent when we said wrought iron was the look, not necessarily the
I agree.
material itself.
So yes, I think we can agree to aluminum that'll look like the wrought iron.
Landscaping on this thing, right?
Jeff, to your point, it's just to keep kids from falling down that hill and into.
Oh, I need to speak up. We're approving landscaping on this as well right now,
Yes.
but I guess for the whole thing,
No, just for
just
the.
around the daycare. And Isabel.
And the road.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that, all that screening, the island.
Yeah. Yeah.
The street trees along Isabella are all part of that.
Okay, thank you. There's existing trees up there.
I think it was also, I know we had that question. I think it was zone commercial, right? Is it commercial as well?
No, his property's not commercial.
Jason. too.
Oh,
I have a student there and parking lights.
Yeah, no, the lights definitely,
It's the
there
back.
should be no light filtration off
Back
of
of the
that.
building.
But there still should not be any light filtration off into his property though.
Correct.
Calls it out too.
So maybe y'all can find a couple trees. Are there any other questions that we need to solidify? If not, then I would entertain a motion for development 2307 Acasa Castilla Daycare. Preliminary plans at 148 Seba Road.
On a motion to approve development 2307 Casa Castillo Daycare preliminary plans.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone that's opposed? Thank you, guys.
2 months ago, it would have just been an extension.
We covered 7A, I guess.
There's a council meeting on 8H. Our next planning commission meeting is 8:15. Let us know if you can be here. And there's an APAC course, zoning and rezoning on the 9th. Anything else from staff? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second. Is anyone opposed? Thank you, guys.